but more importantly, the resulting implications arising out of digitalization. These 2 days will enable learned and focused deliberations on this important development, which has been acutely reinforced by the pandemic. To herald a positive beginning to this endeavor of ours, let the inner strength and coordinated purpose of each one of us shine through the university song Sanskrita Stri Parashakti. I request all guests, dignitaries, and participants to kindly stand in honor of our university song. Please be seated. The present conference is a joint collaboration of prestigious Bombay Psychological Association and Shri M.D. Shah Mahila College of Arts and Commerce. So I invite Chairperson of Bombay Psychological Association Trust, Professor Rupa Shah, to present the formal welcome to resource persons, experts, delegates, and participants. Over to Professor Rupa Shah.
Namaskar, everybody. Present, likely to be present soon enough. Friends, this is supposed to be a welcome, but I want you to travel with me 15, 20 years ago. And that was the time, when people, 2000, when we were not sure of the computers, they were going to be jumping with 2000 coming in. And what was happening then? What was happening in my personal life at that time was my little granddaughter telling me from abroad, Nani, press this and you will get this. Nani, you don't understand, Nani. And Nani still feels that she doesn't understand a lot. In fact, my knowledge on technology is below sea level. But this, to me, is the generation gap, not the age gap. The grasp, it is the e-grasp gap, as I call it. And how much of grasping can each one of us do? How boggled is our mind going to be? And I also feel that the engagement that we have is going to be changing our entire process of cognition. This, to me, is the generation gap, the distance between the modern innovations, as our compare and anchor has just pointed out. And now this distance has to be covered as fast as we can. And obsolescence, is it the day of innovation or is it the day of obsolescence? If obsolescence does not follow the trail of innovation, the knowledge is going to be insurmountable. And this explosion, where is it going to take us? It is fascinating to see how the computers, which needed a big room, were huge, massive ones, have now come to nano, and how small they have become, how miniaturized they've become. But the miniaturization of that, in contradiction, if you put it on a continuum, the knowledge has become larger and wider. And that is where digitalization and data collection is becoming the essence of it all. It's not only new normals for all of us. It is new way of memorizing, the innovative way. Today's speed has become the newness. It is the new normal, or call it whatever name one may want to. But for example, it is said that 41% of the jobs of the world in another 20 years will be replaced with human-like robots. So are we going to be idle? Are we humans not going to have jobs? No. People do not see the positive side, that just as our memory is being aided almost to erosion level, with phone numbers, with data, so much, the memory is making space to take in more. So old jobs, the jobs that the robot will be doing, will be taken over. Newer skills will come, newer jobs will come. And I don't think I'll be alive for the next 20 years, but that would be a fascinating time to be living in. And this, to me, is the seriousness of digitalization. We must use it as a resourceful energy coming to us. We must use it resourcefully, but we must not be dependent on digitalization, lest electricity goes, network is not functioning. So many ifs and ands and buts and bands. So if we're using it responsibly in a way of resourcefulness, fine, but not dependability on it as a resource. So I feel, friends, that the availability and access to so many simultaneous, intensive and extensive factors, the rule of digitalization is, as I read in one place, multiples working with multipliable tools and wares. So come, I welcome you all to come and share this aspect of digitalization and mental conditions, mental status with us. And who are the people that I would like to invite? People normally begin by addressing all the people there, but I know whom all I want to invite. And I would like to welcome and invite our chief guest of the morning, Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev. She's an architect by qualification, but today she heads the SNDT Women's University as the Vice Chancellor. Madam, we welcome you not only to the conference, but we welcome you as the new head, a different head who's not belonging to humanities, to science, to technology, but architecture. And I think the pandemic of newness of architectural achievements and innovations are something that we can look forward for the next 5 years.
Thank you so much, madam.
And then, of course, we have my very old, great friend, Dr. Indu Sahni. She is the president and chancellor of Atlas Skill University. This in itself is an innovation. There is no university with skill university, and they haven't gone through the channel of higher education. They have taken the channel of skills coming in and being raised up to. This is digitization. This is what we are heading for. So Dr. Sani, a very warm welcome as a friend and as chair of the BPA. We also wish to welcome all our trustees of the BPA, whom we have worked and lived together for years on end. Some of us have gone back to our friendship of 30 years and more, as not as trustees, but as good friends who have now been promoted to trusteeship. The executive and the organizing committee members, they've worked night oil, they've burnt night oil. So we hope the conference will emerge with the light that they have burnt in the night. Experts, participants, and colleagues, what would we do without you at the conference? The leader needs people to be led. So we do need you very badly to contribute your knowledge. Being there, being here, not there, sorry, being here at the conference in itself is the encouragement that people like us who are thinking of putting heads together, putting ideas together, exploring them, we need you. So I think I do want to welcome all these people, and we have got our backstage workers who don't come in the forefront. And this, of course, is one way that digitization, I don't know whether it helps us or prevents us, but friends, this to me is a very, very important issue, as everybody will see it. I don't want to repeat it, but I do welcome you very warmly, and all the guests. It was amazing how not one guest got, I think one guest we lost who agreed and couldn't make it due to various reasons. But every guest we invited spontaneously said yes to us. And it was such a good feeling. So welcome everybody, and all my own people, the invitees, and our chief guests, our guests of honor, our keynote speakers and chairs. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Professor Rupa Shah. As you very rightly said, technology as a resourceful energy. The augmentation of digitalization has indeed revolutionized our lives, and its presence in the pandemic helped many a life to keep engaged and connected. But has it been detrimental? Do we need to study its implications? Such and similar questions arise in our mind. The conference will definitely address all these. Dr. Sushma Mehrotra, Honorary President, Bombay Psychological Association Trust, will list out the objectives of the conference. Over to Dr. Sushma Mehrotra.
Good morning, respected Vice Chancellor Dr. Ujjwala, Mohan Bhai, Deepa Ben, and my seniors, Dr. Rupa Shah, Jyoti Ben, Durga, my colleagues and participants, and the experts. Digitalization and human element, a futuristic adaptation in psychology, is our thematic area. With a lot of deliberation, our team of the conference organizers spent considerable amount of energies to make this conference a relevant conference, to review how this new normal is in which we are living now is affecting us and what is going around. So COVID-19 is a milestone event of the century which has changed the world. It came like a tsunami, but we survived. I'm just sharing a story of my childhood from north of India. A girl from an affluent family was to marry into a rich family of leather manufacturers. Now the father had a lot of apprehension that this young girl, how will she adjust in this house, which has the stench, and it's very difficult to be there even for a little
That is
while.
tomorrow, na? Apan nantar boluya, our inauguration has started.
So when he went to meet her after some months, he was surprised to see her very happy. So he asked her, how are you doing in this house, which has a lot of smell? She said, now there is no smell, because I clean this house every day. Father could smell, but not she, because she adapted. So with this story, okay, I would say that how in this conference we will learn, share the process of adaptation from the lenses of educationists, industrialists, corporate, media, mental health professionals, researchers, and many others. Okay? So the exponential evolution of digitalization in different walks of life will be explained from the panel discussion, lectures, keynotes, and from the papers. Actually, the world has been enveloped by shrinking the geographical boundaries. Okay? So we are here from different parts of the world, from Europe, USA, and different parts of Europe, not only the experts, but also the participants. So welcome all of you, and over to you, Geeta.
Thank you, Dr. Sushma Mehrotra. Principal Dr. Deepa Sharma understood the adverse effects of the pandemic on the teaching learning process head on and organized a training program in online teaching for her teachers and others in early May 2020. And she has seen the far-reaching impact of it on teachers, students, and commoners alike. She was enthusiastic about the theme of this conference and welcomed it wholeheartedly. I invite her to welcome esteemed guests and share her views. Madam Deepa Sharma.
Namaste. Good morning. Respected Vice Chancellor of S&T Women's University, Madam Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev, Chairperson of BPA Trust, and our own Professor Rupa Shah, Madam, Honorary President of BPA Trust, Dr. Sushma Mehrotra, all the other members of BPA Trust, speakers and eminent professionals who are going to be with us for these 2 days, Professor Indu Shahani, Dr. Trupti Nayak, Dr. Bindu Hari, Dr. Neeta Nagar, Dr. Bharti Chapte, Dr. Sharmila Banavat, Dr. Sanjana Seth, and many, many more. I understand that we have participants from Dubai, Netherlands, Abu Dhabi, Andhra Pradesh, within India, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Jammu and Kashmir, Gujarat, Assam, West Bengal, Bihar, Delhi, and of course from our own Maharashtra. On behalf of Sri M.D. Shah Mahila College, I extend my warm welcome to you all. This is the second time that the BPA Trust and our college have joined hands for deliberations on a very apt topic of digitization and human element. We are all aware that the hybrid model of learning is here to stay. So deliberations on effective use of the same will provide insights to the academicians. I wish the conference the very best and extend absolute support to the BPA Trust for the mental and emotional wellness of the society. Thank you. I welcome you all for this conference.
Thank you, Madam. It is always with your support we are able to organize this, so thank you very much. It is an honor to introduce the chief guest for today, Vice Chancellor of SNDT Women's University, Professor Ujjwala Chakradev. Madam has done her studies in architecture and has PhD from VNIT Nagpur. With new perspectives advancing in the field of education and the possibility of the application of national education policy, her experience as a principal of Srimati Manorama Bai Mundale College of Architecture, Nagpur, will prove beneficial. As an academician of repute, Dr. Chakradev occupies a strategic place in several prestigious educational boards and institutions, notable among which are Member of Planning Board of IGNOU, Member of Planning Board of All India Town and Country Planning of AICTE, Member of Documentation of Heritage of India by Council of Architecture, to name a few. She is a perfect example of what future lecturers and professors must possess: commitment, dedication, and pure academician. Authoring books, presenting and publishing papers at national and international conferences, 3 copyrights in architectural design, invited speaker at prestigious forums, and a member of equally significant committees and projects. She is presently the member of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, a flagship program of MHRD. An exemplary student, she has received awards at various levels, notable among which is the Best Woman Architect Award by Council of Architecture. She has presently has many prestigious architectural projects to her credit. Again, I am going to say just few: design and research for Super Speciality Government Dental College, Nagpur; administrative building of ICMR, Nagpur; master plan for comprehensive tourism development of UP Tourism Department; interior design of various departments of irrigation and PWD of Maharashtra; and notable is her contribution in the design of iconic Shaheed Smarak at 0 Mile, Nagpur. I request Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Ujjwala Shirish Chakradev, to address the forum.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for such an elaborate introduction of mine. I'm happy, privileged, and I feel honored to be the chief guest today for this conference, which has been organized by Bombay Psychological Association, 29th in collaboration with MD Shah College. And this is 29th BPA conference, I've been told. And it's such a wonderful thing to discuss about human minds and human psychology. I always say that had I not been an architect, I would have been a psychiatrist, or either psychiatrist or psychologist. That's a subject which is of very much concern to me. I love the subject because that subject probably gives us an opportunity to peep inside your own self. I'm thankful to Dr. Rupa Shah, madam. I've met her once and I've been so pleased to meet her, and sort of a blessing. She has also been the past Vice Chancellor of SNDT. So her blessings mean a lot to me. Dr. Sushma Malhotra, whom I have met earlier again and had a wonderful time with her also. And I found a very interesting, intelligent friend within her. And I look forward for the development of this association further. Dr. Deepa Sharma, whom I met very recently in her own college. And it was a wonderful experience to be in her college and see with close association and with so intimately she has been looking after her college and her colleagues in the college. It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to see happiness around, in spite of the conditions through which the entire humanity has passed through in these past 2 years. COVID, pandemic. These are the words which have become so common to us now. We all are going through this phase, and we never expected this. We never thought that we would be the entire mankind will be forced to go through this external revolution. Revolution and evolution are the two phases of human growth. Changes are constant, of course. But these changes, how should they happen? When should they happen? With what pace should they happen? And in which direction should this happen? We think we can decide. We think we are deciding it. However, there is someone out there, up there. The blessings of the God are always there, and he has something else to think about us. He does it. We name it. We say it's a revolution. We say what's happening with us. But it is always something which is pre-decided. And as given by the Hindu philosophy, it's our karma which returns to us. So it's our karma which has returned in this form. But there has been a bad and the good things together. And we repay for both. This is how, when we look at ourselves, how are we feeling, what are we feeling like, and analyzing what we feel and trying to intervene into what we feel and change the direction of our feelings is what probably psychology is to me. I'm not an expert in a subject, but I feel every subject, every human being, every part of our civilization has something to do with the psychology. So and this subject itself encompasses every part of our uh, existence, not only physical, but the association of physical and mental. If we go deeper into the philosophy of Hindu's philosophy, the various layers of our existence, the causal layer and the deep inside our own soul, everything, every part is interlinked and has its connection with each other and has something to do with the psychology that's so-called psychology. Again, I repeat, I'm venturing into the subject and the matter, which is so technical, and the experts are here. And I am not an expert. Yet I venture into speaking out these subjects these words in front of you all. Pardon me if I go wrong somewhere. Pardon me if I say something which is not associated with the technicality of your subject. However, when the topic came in front of me, I remembered the book which I have read almost 40 years ago, I suppose, Alvin Toffler's Future Shock, which was printed probably in the year 1970s. And then he was talking about the future shock of new millennium. There he mentions in his book, right at the beginning, that when the pace of change is accelerated, thus something happens in our own mind, in our own cognition. What is the space of change? He also mentions that the entire humankind is suddenly into a fast pace or mode of transition. There he says that in past 800 years, whatever were the changes in the human mind, in human civilization, those have happened in past 100 years that he mentions in 1970. Imagine, we consider the changes now which we are seeing within ourselves in past 10 years, 20 years, 40 years is amazingly so fast. Mobile revolution, and when mobiles came in, we have seen the changes and the impact of this revolution and this technology on our minds and on the younger generation. We do talk about it so much. So what is it? What is this pace now? The pace which was considered to be so faster. He said that the pace in whatever has happened in the 800 years ago, the same amount or the quantity of change has happened in 100 years. And I would now say the same quantity of change which has happened in the past 100 years is now happening within 5 years. Whatever the technology was there in 5 years ago, everything seems to be changed and we are into the mode of learning. Yes, we need to learn, but when we are learning, we still can't forget we are human beings. The sky is blue, the breeze is, sea is around us, the leaves are green and the seasons come and in their own time. So what is this? What is changing and what is constant? There's something which is constant within us. We as a human being have changed externally. So external core of our civilization is changing, but the internal core takes time to change. And that's where the pace of change and the balance between the inner core and the external core has to be maintained, resumed. And the psychologists play very vital role in maintaining that balance. So when the external core is running faster, your physical existence is moving faster, your materialistic life is changing in a dramatic way, your inner core wants a certain kind of a rhythm within that. This rhythm, this maintaining this balance is a very crucial task of the psychologist as well as that of the psychiatrist. I not from the field of the psychology. Yeah, I'm sorry for that, Klish, but what I was talking was about the kind of connection or a balance which the psychiatrist needs to maintain, and the technology which they bring in to maintain this balance is of crucial importance, not only for the individuals but for the entire society. So this new normal of technology, of the virtual world through which we all are going, and a revolution has been poured on us because of pandemic. I'm sure you all will be discussing about the kind of situation through which the entire human race has gone through in last 2 years, and what are the permanent changes which has happened in man and as well as in technology. The virtual space has become real in past 2 years, and we consider the virtual spaces to be our future next. So in that case, what happens to our cognition, what happens to us in this new spaces? Being an architect, that's one, I'm remotely concerned with this subject in a way, which is called environmental psychology. And that has fascinated me a lot. So when I talk about environmental psychology, the environment and the ambience makes so much of an impact in our thinking pattern, the way we behave, the way we move in. So what is this virtual ambience? What is this virtual space going to make us move, behave in a way, in which way, manner, is a subject which I personally would be interested in looking forward to. And there are many things, of course, and experts of the subjects would be discussing about it. So my best wishes to the organizers as well as to the speakers and all the participants who have come here and are going to gather so much of information, understand the subject more in detail, and take it further to the society to bring about desired change in the society, so that the technology which advances will be used in a positive manner for the benefit of the mankind. Thank you so much for asking me to be the chief guest so that I can closely be associated and understand the subject more in depth. Thanks once again, everyone.
Thank you, Professor Ujjwala Chakradev. So beautifully you have summed up in your speech the theme of our conference, digitalization and human element. Bringing that human element in your speech and then going along with technology. Wonderful, madam. Thank you very much. It's always a treat to listen to you. This week itself, on Monday, you were there in our college offline, and we listened to you for the first time there. Today we were eagerly waiting and then really very, very satisfied listening to you. Thank you again. I request my colleague, Mr. Amitabh Seth from Department of Psychology, to present vote of thanks for inaugural function.
Sir, you are on mute. Amitabh?
I'm so sorry. I've just started, yes. Good morning, everybody. It's a delight to offer vote of thanks today with such dignitaries on the dais. I've chosen the electronic dais. I would like to thank our chief guest for the occasion, Vice Chancellor of SNDT University, Dr. Ujjwala Chakradev, for her inaugural address. We are fortunate to have you, Madam Vice Chancellor, among us twice during this week, once offline and today online. Madam, I was very touched by your address on our Foundation Day. I can describe Madam by this quotation from the book, The Alchemist, because wherever your heart is, that is where you will find your treasure. And Madam Vice Chancellor has shown this through her life and living, that connect to everything that you do with your heart, and failure is impossible. Madam, we also appreciate your insights into the way the human civilization has changed and the pace of inner psyche as compared to the external environments. The connect of architecture and psychology is appreciated. Thanks for this amazing message, Madam. We are immensely grateful that you agreed to be a part of this conference. I would like to specially thank the President of Jan Seva Samiti, Dr. Mohan Bhai Patel. Although Sir is not present today in today's program, I would like to put on record my deepest gratitude for his perpetual blessings towards all of us working at Sri Amrisha Mahila College. This reminds me of what Dalai Lama said. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. Every member of the management of our college has always been appreciative and supportive of us whenever we want to organize such events. And I would like to thank them all from the bottom of my heart. We can complain because rose bushes have thorns, or rejoice because thorns have roses. This is what we have learned from our very own Madam Principal, Dr. Deepa Sharma, that we can succeed in any circumstances, that she is the one, and she is the one who supports us through all our endeavors. Let me also take the opportunity to thank the BPA Trust as well as the BPA Executive Committee members for this collaboration. Their zeal towards mental health manifests itself in such meaningful activities. Special thanks to our chairperson, BPA Trust, Dr. Rupa Shah, and trustees, Dr. Mrinalini Purandare, Dr. Jyoti Doshi, Dr. Durga Parekh, Honorary President, Dr. Sushma Mehrotra, and immediate past President, Dr. Priscilla Paul. I would especially like to thank Dr. Meghna Basu Thakur for video she prepared in. No, I think that's not here. Thanks to our Madam Aarti Bans and Vidya Bans, daughters of Dr. B.L. Bans, for their kindness to accept our invitation in their presence. I would like to thank Dr. Carol Forgash from New York, USA, for training all the participants ranging from various countries like Mauritius, UK, and UAE in ego state therapy during the pre-conference workshop on 16th and 17th February. Our resource person and panelists have also graced the occasion with their esteemed presence. I would thank especially Mr. Rohit Saran, Editor-in-Chief of the Times of India Digital, for attending the inaugural ceremony for this conference. Also, I would thank Madam Sheetal Shah for her best wishes. I would also like to express my gratefulness to the audience present now, to all the paper presenters, and the many participants registered from all over the country and the world. Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Jammu and Kashmir, Gujarat, Assam, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Bihar, Delhi, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Maharashtra. My special thanks go to Mr. Hiten and the technical team for their technical support. Let me end this Thanksgiving session with these words of A. Milne the Winnie the Pooh. Piglet noticed that even though he had a very small heart, it could hold a rather large amount of gratitude. Thank you, everyone.
We will start with the proceedings of the conference. The first program is the program in honor of late Dr. B.L. Barnes. I know Professor Vice Chancellor is very, very busy, but I request you, Madam, to be there for this particular program only because it is not only BPA, but Dr. Barnes has a great contribution towards SNDT Women's University. She was the director, BCUD director in the university, and has taken the PG department of psychology to its heights, being the head of the department for many long years. So over to Priscilla Paul, Madam, for the next program in honor of late Dr. B.L. Barnes.
Good morning, one and all. A very warm welcome to each one of you, and a warm welcome to our special invitees, Dr. Vidya and Dr. Aarti, for joining us for this inaugural today. It is indeed my privilege and joy to stand here and share my thoughts about a fearless, gallant, and tenacious woman who has been an inspirational model and a great stalwart in the field of psychology, a beautiful flower that will always remain in our hearts, our very own leader of BPA, Dr. Blanche Barnes. A timeless name in our hearts and minds, the contributions of Dr. Barnes are countless. At a time when the Bombay Psychological Association was almost dormant for a number of years, after joining the faculty in the Department of Psychology, SNDT University, Mumbai, she planned to revive the association. She headed the BPA as a president and became the chairman of the Bombay Psychological Trust. She also started the Bombay Psychologist Journal and became the chief editor for a number of years. Under her leadership, BPA organized many conferences, workshops, seminars, and when she was the director of BCUD, the first international conference was hosted in 2001. She was eager to extend her expertise and support on building the BPA for the past several decades. Apart from her academic experience in the field of clinical psychology, she also started the Komal Sprush, which is a part of the Leo Barnes Foundation. Dr. Barnes strongly believed that the young mind should be encouraged to be trained to achieve goals and mentored them as future psychologists. She had always encouraged students to present papers in our BPA conferences. She believed that we need to provide a platform for our students to present papers and develop a research mind. She mentored a number of students for their PhD programs and encouraged applications of psychology in everyday life by becoming trained psychologists. She was an education's par excellence, always ready to help and eager to share her valuable, vast experience in the field of psychology. She was a doting mother and a loving grandmother. My personal experience with Dr. Barnes was enriching and strengthful. She has personally helped me develop my personality, both at the personal and professional level, and I was fortunate to have her as my mentor in my growing years in the field of psychology. The present theme of our conference, digitization and human element, had been suggested by her, and hence BPA organized this international conference in her memory. I'm sure Dr. Barnes is there in spirit with us for the two-day conference as we explore new possibilities and challenges through the fruitful sharing and deliberations. We hope to continue to follow her legacy and shape our young psychologists in the years to come, and BPA grows to greater heights in the future. May I now request the slideshow, please?
I took the supermarket flyers on the windowsill. I threw the day old tea from the cup. Packed up the photo album Matthew had made, memories of a life that's been loved. Took the get well soon cars and stuffed animals. Poured the old ginger beer down the sink. Dad always told me, don't you cry when you're down, but Mum, there's a tear every time that I blink. Oh, I'm in pieces, it's tearing me up, but I know a heart that's broke is a heart that's been loved. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go, and when God takes you back, He'll say hallelujah, you're home. I fluffed the pillows, made the bed, stacked the chairs up, folded your nightgowns neatly in a case. John said he'd drive, then put his hand on my cheek and wiped a tear from the side of my face. And I hope that I see the world as you did. 'Cause I know a life with love is a life that's been lived. So I'll sing hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. When I fell down, you'd be there holding me up. Spread your wings as you go. And when God takes you back, he'll say hallelujah, you're home. Hallelujah. You were an angel in the shape of my mom. You got to see the person I have become. Spread your wings and I know that when God took you back, he said hallelujah, you're home.
Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories. And the memories bring back your. There's a time that I remember when I did not know no pain. When I believed in forever and everything would stay the same. Now my heart feel like December when somebody say your name. 'Cause I can't reach out to call you, but I know I will one day. Yeah. Everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday. But everything gon' be alright. Gonna raise a glass and say, hey. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories. And the memories bring back your. Memories bring back your. There's a time that I remember when I never felt so lost. And I felt all of the hatred was too powerful to stop. Now my heart feel like an ember and it's lighting up the dark. I'll carry these torches for you, and you know I'll never drop. Yeah. Everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday. Yeah. But everything gon' be alright. Gonna raise a glass and say, hey. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones here today. Toast to the ones that we lost on the way. 'Cause the drinks bring back all the memories. And the memories bring back your. Memories bring back your. Memories bring back your. Memories bring back your.
Would you know my name if I I saw you in heaven, would it be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in heaven.
I would also like to inform you all that last year we have lost one of our senior BPA members, Professor Ramola Thangaya. She was the former head of the Department of Psychology and the vice principal of Arts faculty. She was also the secretary for the BPA, and we miss her enthusiasm and contribution to the BPA. She had always encouraged students to present papers and to attend our BPA conferences over the past. As we remember Dr. Blanche Barnes and Professor Ramola Thangaya, may God bless their souls with his eternal kingdom. Thank you.
May I request Dr. Vivek Belekar to take over the next session?
Thank you, everyone. That was such a touching presentation. All of us remember Dr. Barnes with a lot of love and a lot of respect. May I now take you to the next session, which is a keynote address by one of the par excellence academic of the country, Dr. Indu Sahani. Dr. Indu Sahani is currently a founding president and chancellor of Atlas Skill Tech University. She is a former sheriff of Mumbai, member of University Grants Commission, principal of HR College of Commerce and Economics, Mumbai. An academic with over 4 decades of institution building experience, she has played the lead role in nurturing her students to become professionals with heart. She was first Indian to be appointed vice chair on the board of governors of International Baccalaureate. She has been invited to leading corporate boards and key listed companies, providing an impetus for academia-industry collaboration, which was subject to her PhD at the University of Mumbai. Dr. Sahani is an independent director of board of Colgate Palmolive India Limited, United Spirits Limited, Diego, and several other listed companies. It's pleasure and a proud moment for all of us to have you, madam, with us on this occasion. May I now request you to enlighten all of us with your presentation. The gallery is all yours, madam. Geeta, madam, please make Mr. Kunal a presenter. He would be presenting slides.
He needs to open his video. We will not know who is he because he has joined on reserve 1. So only
Mr.
and
Kunal,
if he
could you please
renames.
open your video? Switch on your video so that they would know.
Geeta, Dr. Indu Shahani is requesting that she also can't see herself on the screen. So, maybe some wrong link has gone to her.
We will send her a special link to join, which I will send it to you. You forward it to her.
Dr. Sahani has to be made a panelist for this session. Can technical team quickly do that?
Yes, yes.
Mr. Kunal need to be
Yes.
made a presenter. Yeah, thank you.
We promoted him.
Yeah. Geeta, you're sending me?
Yes.
Do you have her email address?
I will be sending it to you on WhatsApp and then you can forward it to her. And by then there is slide presentation. So the slides can be organized till then. The technical team, you need to make him host.
Yes, ma'am. We'll make it co-host. Yeah.
Yes, so we will wait till Indu Sahani joins. We do not have any break in between, so participants can take just 5 minutes break as the things are getting connected.
Geeta, please send. You know, you have to just move her in. She's there.
Ma'am.
You have to move her in as a panelist. Unmute yourself, Geeta.
Ma'am, Indusani ma'am is there?
Yes, she's waiting since an hour.
If she is there, she has to be made a panelist.
She has joined with which name, ma'am?
She's in the attendees, Preeti ma'am.
Okay, we will promote her.
You need to promote her.
Shahani. Now she's promoted, ma'am. She's in panel.
Yeah, I'm here now. I'm here.
I'm so sorry.
Good. No. So let's get this off. Let me first speak, and then we'll get the videos, get the slides on. Thank you so much for waiting. I was a panelist, and I was been waiting there for almost an hour, and it is such a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Dr. Rupa Shah, and thank you so much, Dr. Sushma, for inviting me today. It's a topic absolutely from my heart because we went through both the digital and the human aspects, and your topic could not be more relevant for education than it is today. As we all know, that the pandemic was a crisis, and it was not just a health crisis, not just a social or an economic crisis. It definitely was a crisis for education. But the good part was that it was a perfect storm, because this was the only time that education would have embraced technology. And this was the only time that schools and colleges could be closed, but learning did not stop. And this is where I feel that we were very fortunate. I have to tell you that over the years, right from HR college to my schools of design school and my other management and entrepreneurship schools that we had started, we had created studios where we would ask people to go in and prepare lectures and actually record lectures. And nobody did it because it wasn't the necessity. They could go into the class, deliver the lectures and come out. And now is the time when they were forced to do it. But it's amazing, I would say,
the way online education was taken in and the way technology was embraced. I have to say that it was one of the most, I didn't think during my lifetime I would be able to be so tech savvy as I am today. You cannot any longer say, oh, I don't know, I'm not a tech person. You can never say these words. Look at all of us today connected from all over the world on this conference. And such a great idea to talk about both the human aspects and the digital aspects. So let me just tell you a couple of things of my experience before I give you a few of the slides that I had prepared. My experience of online was initially, it was difficult to get online and to get used to it. The first wave was when students were experimenting. It did create a digital divide, definitely. Those who did not, and as we know schools had problems, municipal schools had problems. But here is when our students jumped in. And this is showing the human aspect of our students who realized that if municipal schools cannot function, let us help them out. And then they went across, they sat with the students and helped them out with whatever they could. So the digital divide actually brought people together. I'm happy to see that a large number of our students worked on these projects. That was one. The second thing was the excitement in the class. The way the teachers started preparing their lectures. Let me give you one example. Design school. And I'm sure, I don't know if our respected Vice Chancellor is here with us, but she's an architect and she talked about it. The design school, tell me, how is a design school product design going to be taught on, just virtually? And there was this young professor of ours, and I must say, all our professors became innovators. This was the second advantage that we got. All teachers became innovators. How did he innovate? 3 devices in front of him. One, which is his laptop, one, which is his iPad, one, which is his main screen, and one, he has his cell phone. He creates the prototype in front of them, helps them to create their prototypes. The students create the prototypes. It's a product design program, right? And he creates the prototype. The prototype is then mailed to a printing machine where we provided them with 3D printers. And the prototype was printed. And then we fast sent that prototype back to the student in time for the next lecture. So the student, stage by stage by stage, could actually go through as if he was sitting in a laboratory. Innovation, that is something that teachers would never have done. From chalk and talk, they moved to log and talk. And how beautifully they logged in to show these things. So definitely, online had many advantages. They brought people together. They brought in different things. But let me say, the second wave, we had to do many different things. That's where the human aspect had to be brought in, because the fatigue was setting in. And as the fatigue was setting in, the students themselves came up with great ideas. What were the ideas they came up with? Let's do one day online, a pets day. And they would all bring their pets to the class and talk about their pets and go about. One day they would only do, the Christmas was celebrated, Diwali was celebrated with much more gusto. So I think the human element did not let the digital element take over. And this is where I felt that we were moving towards 5 different skills I experienced of my students during this time. The first, most important, emotional intelligence, because that's where we felt that teachers and students understood what emotions were about. And actually, emotions could be detected even virtually, right? It is, we could make out when a student was not up to it. So we had to boost morale, we had to do a lot of these things. And I must say, that was one skill I had never experienced to this extent as I did in an online class. Secondly, this is what I loved it. We all became geeks. And earlier we would only say, oh, that 21-year-old is a geek. But today, I'm not going to give my age, but I'm a geek too. If they had moved me from a panelist to this, I would have been here earlier. But I was waiting for another geek to work on my session. Okay, the third important thing, which none of us realized, is internationalization, the cultural intelligence. And this third important thing was when I could get any professor in the world to come and talk to my students. I could go to any part of the world and experience the cultural experience with my students. And that was the third thing. The most important thing, and this is where the psychologists would be very happy to know, which happened was virtual collaborations. Without meeting, students who met for the first year, they had never met themselves. Second year, they had never met. Now they are on campus. They are best of friends as if they'd known them each other always. Virtual collaboration was something we never thought would happen. And the most important one was critical problem solving. Had my students been over here and I had not yet been moved into the panelists, one of the students would have taken over and started the session and waited for me to come on to the session. The problem solving that happened was amazing. And that's when we started thinking, and I now will go on to my presentation to say that we had to reimagine, reinvent, and reboot. Give me a minute. This is always a professor's throat, and I'm sure Dr. Rupa Shah can resonate with that. All right, but she's always at the sweetest tone that we've ever heard. So going ahead, I would say that, thank you for inviting me for this conference. First, when Dr. Shushma said, come for this, I wasn't sure, how do I fit into this? But thank you so much. And I started thinking, and that's when we really said that we were reimagining. It was time for us to reimagine. We don't want to leave it at this, just the part of bringing in technology in our lives. We want to convert them into skills, and we want to take it ahead. Degrees matter, but skills follow. So let's look at the next slide. So one of the questions I've always asked, are universities listening to Gen Z? And let's see who the Gen Z is. As we all know, some of us are here, baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, the millennials, and then of course the Gen Z, the 21-year-olds, the 18-year-olds, and it's amazing to have all of them on this. Let's go next. We all know that India is ready to take its place in the top 5th economy. This year's budget showed you the GDP growing at 9.2. Never before has that happened. And so we are going to take over. And glad that we are taking over, because we are the youngest nation in the world today. And our average age is only 29, whereas look at where Japan is and where China and Europe is. Now, China is concerned that they not going to have the youth because of the one-child policy. And India is going ahead. Do you know 50% of our population is under the age of 25? And you know how many are in Gen Z? 27% of our 1.2 billion, which is 375 million people, are my young generation, the Gen Z. And so I think we had to think of something different for them. Don't go by what you see about them as torn jeans and so on. They are a very strong generation. And the generation that is really going to shape India. Let's go next. All right, what is it that they were most concerned about? And I have to say, this is a survey that was done amongst our students, which showed up. Can you imagine these students are more environmentally conscious than we expect them to be? They are concerned about the digital divide, and therefore all their projects are in taking care to see that those who are outside the university and not so privileged are helped out. Public health, these are the things that they are really concerned about. They did an entire flea market to collect money so that one hospital could be helped. And this was all during the virtual time. The flea market was done virtually and they collected money. Climate change, sustainability. I'm so glad to see that these were the top 4 things that the students wanted. Let's look next. I just did yesterday, because I was coming in here, I did this exercise. This is called the Mentimeter, and it creates a cloud for you from the students. You cannot get, here are 93 students who have written, okay? They were in my class. And I was talking to them and I said, what is the one key skill that you place most? Problem solving. And I think the corporates can resonate with it. The psychologists can resonate with it, that problem solving today is something that is the most important skill they need. And these are the skills they have told us. Are we listening? Are we universities listening? These are the skills they want to develop. Yes, they want to develop their core curriculum. Yes, they want to look at that. And this is what made us think that why are we not looking at now a skill tech education? Technology is something they have. Let's develop the skills in them. So let's go next and see. The 4 most demanded were, they wanted a leading edge skill sets. They wanted leadership mindset. They want practical application. And we know that from years and years. And of course, digital learning. Today, if my courses do not have coding, if my courses do not have AI, if my courses do not have ML, even if I'm teaching psychology, I think I'm leaving the students behind. We are teaching it in every course. And that's why we created what's called the Skill Tech University. Let's come to that in a minute. All right. I just want to take a half a minute for all of you to see. Do you know in media and communication, these are the jobs. You psychologists are going to be a part of this job, not the media specialists or media school people. Have you ever heard, and I'm sure this would thrill Dr. Upasha, sixth sense analyst? Would you think this to be a job? These are the jobs my advertising companies are asking me for. Have I got my people ready for these jobs? Audience data strategist. These are the ones who are actually, these are the kind of jobs now. Are we getting our students ready for the jobs of the future? The jobs of the future will not even, today, what exists did not exist 5 years back, and what will exist in 2030, I don't know what I'm teaching my students for, if these are the jobs of the future. So let's go. We decided that we must decode Industry 4.0 because you cannot have any of these jobs and skills without industry participation. So our whole focus then became on, and we were very fortunate that the Skills, Entrepreneurship and Employment Department of the government of Maharashtra, and with their support, we set up Atlas Skill Tech University. And in the pandemic, can you believe a university in just 7 months? And I must thank the bureaucracy, thank the government who saw some merit in this and allowed us to set up India's first Skill Tech University. Let's go ahead. Yes, to create the leaders of the future, equipped with the skills of tomorrow, our vision going next. This is where I want you to just pay attention for a minute. This is how it will be. What is our model? Skills education, emerging technologies, and integrated learning. At any stage, if you are doing design, you will integrate it with the skills of tomorrow and the jobs of tomorrow. And every curriculum of ours has these three elements. So, okay. Next is, this is something I want you to talk about. The whole of my students, my entire student body only talks about the metaverse. Can you imagine young 19-year-olds are actually investing in real estate in the metaverse? If you do not know today what the metaverse is, then I think we will be left behind. And so we created our own metaverse where a student travels through the blockchain, smart home, artificial intelligence, realities, augmented, and this across disciplines. It's not something which is just the digital technology, it's across disciplines. And so therefore, I would like to introduce to you the university we have created. I have just a minute's video. So this is what it is. It is right in the center of Mumbai. It's at Bandra Kurla complex. We wanted to be a corporate within a campus within corporates. And I want to now just give a message to all you psychologists. This is what my students had to give you a message. I asked them, please tell us, what would you like to tell this conference? And look at it. This is a message they're giving to the companies, and these are young Gen Z students. Stop making it about profit, it's about people. Find more eco-friendly ways to do things. Although companies exist to make money, they should balance. Your actions should be based on people that run your companies. To them, the human aspect has not gone. Whether it's digital or not, they are here to take care of your future. So these are our messages to them. And with this, I just want to say that if you can dream it, you can do it. And that's what's been our motto. And thank you so much for inviting me today. And I think we can go off the slides. And I must say that one of the things that I really learned was that technology is going to be a part of it. But I think what's more is that it's going to be human to digital to human. Human will never go, but digital has stepped in. So that's how the new equation is going to be human to digital to human. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, colleagues, friends, and dear students. As we have come to the end of such an enlightening keynote address, on behalf of the BPA Trust and Sri M.D. Shah Mahila College of Arts and Commerce, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to Dr. Indu Sahani for kindly accepting our invitation to be the guest of honor for today's conference and taking out the time to be with us and deliver this insightful keynote address. It was indeed inspiring, ma'am, to listen to your deliberation on how we need to be innovators and creative problem thinkers to deal with the challenges of the future. I'm sure our Gen Z students and our colleagues who are teaching the Gen Z students and inspiring the Gen Z students would have imbibed a lot from your deliberation, your perspectives, and your thoughts. Thank you once again for being there with us and for your esteemed presence and for your kind words and thoughts. Thank you very much, ma'am.
We will start with our next session now, and I request Sushma Merhotra to take over.
Thank you, Geeta. I know we are running slightly behind schedule, but till our panelists are getting ready, let me give their brief introduction. So, the panel will be led by our moderator, Trupti Nayak, who is an alumni from SNDT University. And I'm proud to say that I'm proud of her to be her teacher. As I look back, I remember you, Trupti, when you came to the department for your admission with your remarkable portfolio, which I can still visualize. Trupti is currently the Vice President of HDFC Bank and heads the organization effectiveness and employee engagement. She also co-leads the inclusion and diversity agenda of the bank. There is a long list of her accomplishments, but I'm trying to be brief just to say she has worked with other corporates, particularly the banks, from psychology to banking. Isn't it a great journey? She has worked with HDFC Bank, Kotak Mahindra, Aditya Birla Group, and HDFC Standard Life Insurance and KPMG. There is really a lot to say, but I am not going through that because you can read it in the proceeding. On a personal note, she is an amateur doodler, alternative healing practitioner, graphologist, and aspiring stand-up comedian. Welcome, Trupti. We are looking forward to your panel and your moderation to the panelists. I'm proud to introduce Bindu Hari. After listening to such a beautiful presentation by Indu Shahani and the graphics what we saw over the screen, now Bindu Hari has a similar story to share, being a very innovative educationist. She is a vice chairman of National Public School, TIBS, which is the International School, Bangalore, NAFL, GMC, and the chain of schools by NPS, which are located in India and Singapore, specializing in Montessori 12 education, offering a range of curricula, including international curricula, as well as the national curricula from CBSE and the other Indian school system. She has nicely, this is what is my understanding by going through her YouTube videos, where I can see that she is a hardcore educationist and a visionary who is a pioneer in introducing new methods, not only for academic development of young ones, but for overall growth, which is a vertical and horizontal growth in the academic form. There is again a lot to tell, but I'm going to restrict here and I move ahead to Nita Nagar from Finland. And Nita Nagar holds high academic qualifications from engineering to PhD from IIMs, worked in the different organizations in India, but currently she is a senior leader in information technology business across the globes in different organizations. and she holds the position of a managing director in Accenture Nordics, and she is in Finland at the moment. She has, whenever I find to trace her, I don't find her in Finland. She's all across in the Nordic countries and the other European countries, sometimes even in out of continent. She has led and executed large transformational program for major financial services, um, which are in Nordics. And I also have lots to share about her, but I'm restricting myself. And I would just like to share that she, besides her role as a professional role, she's also an allied member of the executive committee of India Business and Professional Forum in Finland, which is led by Embassy of India. And she, at personal level, she has emerged lately in the middle of her life, where she discovered that she is an artist inside her. And she, according to me, comes into a great list of who and who as painters in the country where she is at the moment. Okay, so she is painting with her classic realism techniques in the oil painting, and welcome you here. And we are very happy to have all of you here with us. And the last of our panelists in this session is Rohit Saran, who is editor-in-chief of Times of India Digital. I many times read your blogs, Rohit, and I didn't know who you were until I recently contacted you. He has been a managing editor of Times of India and editor of Khalij Times and Business Today. He was executive editor of Economic Times of India and India Today, and has edited Indian editions of Harvard Business Reviews and Scientific Americans. He launched ET Wealth, Money Today, Gadgets and Gizmos, and Netflix, India's first mobile-only new products. A business journalist for most of his active reporting years, Rohit has edited some of India's biggest publications, launched and relaunched 5 publications, and has driven change in culture and technology across several newsrooms in India and abroad. With these few words, I invite all of you, dear panelists, and we are looking forward for this panel discussion and your views. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mirudra, and thank you, BPA, for inviting us for the panel discussion. It's truly my honor to moderate, the session with such eminent personalities. Just want to check, I'm audible, right?
You are.
Super, thank you. All right, so we've spoken a lot about how the pandemic has changed our worlds. In our corporate, we say that technology came at a premium and human experience was a commodity before pandemic, right? And now human experience is coming at a premium and technology is now a commodity, right? A new normal has compelled us to adapt it at a pace humankind has never experienced. Yeah. Every social change comes with its own opportunities and challenges. And Dr. Indushani spoke so well about how we looked at the current situation, how they innovated, right? And looked at the mindset change that's happened. So let's explore, take that theme forward. Let's explore the impact of technology and the new normal on holistic well-being of individuals, families, and society at large. I invite our esteemed panelists to share their views on these issues. Without further ado, let me quickly jump into the discussion. And my first question, actually, Dr. Nagar, you could take it, it'll be really nice. Pandemic has changed the definition of work, worker, and workplace. Technology is slowly taking over what was unique to human, which is thinking and emotions, cognition and emotions. So how has this changed the corporate landscape? What does it mean now to engage with employees, look at a work-life balance, job relevance, upskilling? Everything has changed. So can you throw some light on this, please?
Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me on this. It's my pleasure. I think, if we look at the big picture here, there is a major shift in the industry itself overall. And that shift is that there is a bit of a divide between some of the industries who have flourished quite significantly because of pandemic, And then there are industries which have kind of gone a bit slow and down because of the impact of the pandemic. So what has happened in this whole process is a shifting of the skills itself of people. Some of the skills have become very relevant and more relevant, and some of the skill has become less relevant. And then this has added a lot of pressure in the system. Now, if we look at then what this means for people or the individual itself in terms of their employment, in terms of how corporates see their employment, technology has become a heart of most of the industries in spite of all of that shift. And the pace of digitization has gone much, much faster than what we had all imagined in the past. And what that means is that for some of the people, this whole change has led to a lot more opportunities. And what that means, and even worldwide, I am hearing a lot of those situations where the individuals has started to realize their potential, which they never thought they had because of the shift in the skills. But on the other hand, there is a big insecurity among a whole lot of people whose skill sets are not relevant today. And this is another big shift which has come in. So in totality, the need for shift of the skills has become very, very important. Constant reskilling of people, constant learning in this whole process has become very, very important. And that's a big pressure for individuals to continue to do that, right? Then what it means for the, in terms of the technology, for example, this technology in the technology sector, this is a golden opportunity for people in the technology sector right now, because they are needed everywhere. What that means is that there is there is a bit of a mismatch between demand and supply right now. And that is become a big influence in the way employers and employee relationships have developed now. Now it's very hard for employees have to become very, very innovative in engaging their employees in this whole process. One of the biggest motivator in the past was for people, the corridor coffee discussions in the office workspace was a big source of information for the employees. For the employers, actually. It was one of the way employers would know the pulse of their organization, on those office corridors. Now that is no longer there. It's a very different scenario. It's very hard to predict, even though you are working with a person 24/7. It's very hard to predict what that person is actually feeling about your company. The whole engagement, the concept of engagement, employee engagement has changed. It's very hard to predict. It is very likely that the person whom you're working with 2 times for so long online, that person might be actually might be having 2 jobs on the side, and switching jobs has become so easy in this whole context. The other thing which has become very strange is the concept of work-life balance itself. Now there are no scheduled times. There is an expectation from the employers themselves that the people can be available at any time of the day or any hour of the night. It becomes very difficult to explain that employees can take a break in their jobs. It's very difficult because there is an expectation that you're always available. Employers are moving towards a lot of productive tools, productivity tracking tools through to new technology, this thing. And this is a very strange environment, which is also kind of creating a bit of trust issues in the system, which was not felt so much when you were in the office. You could detect those trust and lack of trust. Right now, it's all, you are using the technology to find out whether the person is working effectively or not working effectively. But the connect between employer and employee is very hard to get. And I think we still do not have a right solution for that. It is employers are actually constantly evolving and trying to find new ways of engagement. And in my view, that's the biggest problem employers have to solve today, even with all the kind of technological developments which have happened in the industry. This is the employee engagement, in my view, is going to be one of the key problem still unresolved, and it requires a whole lot of resolution and new thinking in general. That would be my perspective.
Superb. So what I hear you say are three critical things. One is the trust part, which I really like, that it is trust on both sides, right? Even when from an employee point of view and from an employer, and that's becoming a defining factor. The other one is the fading of boundaries between work and life, and that also leads to a lot of things that we've heard about: burnout, isolation, issues that even companies are dealing with. We'll talk about it a little more, as we go along. May I invite Dr. Bindu Hari to, give us a perspective from a school and children point of view. So humankind is facing unprecedented revolution. Our old stories are crumbling and no new stories have emerged so far. We all are learning on the go. So what are some of the challenges children and the entire education ecosystem is experiencing? How can we prepare ourselves, our children, for such unprecedented transformation and radical uncertainties?
Good question. Thank you. Thank you, Trupti. I can talk about this for about an hour. So you're putting me, you're giving me a very, very big challenge here. Absolute pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank Dr. Sushma for her kind invitation as well. I have to say that technology has been a huge blessing for us right through COVID, because we could continue the learning of our children with a variety of tech tools. And children, as you know, like novelty. So the tech tools constantly have to change, which means teachers constantly have to learn. So the whole system has been learning. And essentially, the challenge has been also to establish connections with students on through a screen, which is, we're talking about 3-year-olds right up to 17-year-olds. And that can be a challenge, but we've been really very, I think it's been a very positive experience for everybody on the whole. So the theme that you've chosen, linking digitization and the human element, I mean, I think it's something that needs to be discussed and continue to be discussed going forward. It's that relevant, that important. So while we know that the family as a unit has changed, because it's all nuclear families, and people always say it takes a village to raise a child, but today, where is that village? It's really us, the teachers, the principal, 2 parents, a set of parents, the counselors, right? And if schools have a pastoral coordinator, it's them. So those are the adults in the life of a child, and that's what the village for the child is about. They are the only other adults in the life of a child that actually care, because all of the other support systems, uncles, aunts, grandparents, in urban India, those have all vanished. Right? So it's really quite a challenge that we have as teachers in today's world. When we spoke about the challenges earlier, it's quite dramatic, actually. While tech has its huge advantages, it's impacted us in every area, impacted the children, impacted the parents, impacted the teachers, positively and negatively. With children, it's been quite an issue. So we've seen a case of, and psychologists will understand this, a lack of sensory integration in a child because of more screen time, more activity on screen and interactive processes on screen, as against actually playing with, physical material. That's been a challenge. I think Indu Chirani earlier spoke about the metaverse. Even without our children being on the metaverse, we find 6-year-olds sometimes unable to distinguish between fantasy and reality. It's really quite interesting. And you have to wait for them to grow up a little more, live in the real world before they're able to distinguish those. The pressure to be on the internet is there, pressure to be on social media, with particularly with children, issues related to cyberbullying, issues related to childhood obesity and type 2 diabetes in children from not actually engaging in physical activity because they're on their screens when they are on online school and when they're off online school. Right? That's it's become quite addictive as far as the children are concerned. We're seeing greater social awkwardness from our children. That's again been compounded by their addiction for the screen, preferring the virtual medium to actual human interactions, a lack of eye contact, access to inappropriate material, unfortunately, and that's had its impact on our children, lowering attention spans, lowering concentration, lowered concentration amongst our children. But I think the biggest issue also has been with us is the mental health of our children and their wellness. So we're seeing increase in anxiety, in depression, in self-harm, suicidal tendencies. I'm sorry this sounds so bleak, but this is our reality. This is the reality that we face as schools. And addiction, while in the past, when you heard the word addiction, it was always substance. Addiction to, it's not the case anymore. It can be to games addiction, it can be, social media addiction. It can be, my youngest addict is an 8-year-old boy who's addicted to YouTube. Take his phone away and he gets very violent. And this is an issue, right? This is a big issue. So these are the challenges that we're facing. So when I heard Dr. Neeta talk about parents, the effects on parents, what has happened through the last 2 years, we see it in our children. We see children acting out. We see all sorts of behavior that we didn't see before, which are challenging their teachers as well, right? Non-participation, disengagement, or the other end of the spectrum, and violent behavior, unable to get along with other students and so on. We're very grateful we're back offline and students are coming back into school today. So it's been, there's been an exponential increase in these mental health issues. While we always had to deal with ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, hyperactivity and things like that, behavioral issues, but that has exponentially increased. So while there's rich praise for technology, there's the downside as well. And that's something that we're going to have to deal with. And that's something that we're working on. So I'm really looking at working in a very concerted, collective manner with psychologists, with the pastoral coordinators or the wellness, coordinators in school, all working together in the interest of our children.
Wow. Actually, many things that you spoke, Dr. Hari, was something that were not even thought about, like cyberbullying. I didn't even think about that, or for that matter, addiction redefined. Of course, we all knew of social awkwardness and because we know obesity, yes, but some of these things are real eye opener. And I think we'll discuss this, in few minutes on how do we address some of these things and what is the role of psychologists will play in the entire ecosystem. So my next question actually now is a little more holistic. So we've seen what is happening at corporate and therefore, what is happening to employees and adults. We've seen what is happening to children. Now, let's look at society as a whole. And therefore, I invite Dr. Rohit Sharan to help me with this perspective. So, Dr. Sharan, during the last century, technology has been distancing us from ourselves. So we've been losing our ability to pay attention even to smell and taste. Instead of actually understanding what's really happening down my lane, I'm more interested in cyberspace, right? I'm more absorbed in smartphones and computers. It's easier to talk to strangers in Switzerland than really have a conversation with our loved ones over breakfast. So how is the new normal actually changing the social fabric of the community we live in? What are some inevitable things that are going to happen and how do you deal with them in your perspective?
Thanks, Uti. Thanks, Dr. Mohta, for having me. I'll just start with one slightly embarrassing confession that I'm not a doctor. So please, there are so many doctors, real doctors in this panel and the screen. So I don't want them to be, journalists bask on, reflected glory of others because our profession takes us to very good, knowledgeable people. And we write about as if we are those people, but we are not. We are just communicators. So that's just small correction. No, thankfully, I mean, so we as communicators, that's all we are as journalists. We see so much of things that Dr. Rupa Shah, Dr. Shani, Dr. Nagar, and Dr. Hari have talked about, and we write through ourselves and through our reporters, copies, and editorials. One is this about inevitability of digital life, which pandemic has just sort of brought it maybe 10 years forward. So basically, it's all about change management, because change is already upon us. And as many of the panelists and earlier speakers have said, the pace is only accelerating. And at a broader level, before I just try to, in a couple of minutes, offer some specific from our profession, I think it's all about, this, for centuries, we've lived with this promise of tomorrow versus fear of tomorrow. So there will always be fear and there is always be promise. Somehow, our human evolution has seen that promise trumps the fear. So, as a student of economics, I remember used to be told about this Malthusian fear of, food grain supply will, fall short of human capacity to breed. And now we have more food than ever this thing. The problem is distribution and production, and so on and so forth. There's so many examples of the promise of tomorrow trumping fears of tomorrow. So I'm sure, and people in your profession will, I think, help us majorly in overcoming. So I think a couple of things that we have recently noted, I think one is just understanding this phenomena a little more sharply. I think what is happening is that we see that this gap between desire and fulfillment has actually almost disappeared, in the digital world. So what you desire, and then at the moment you get fulfilled, earlier you could wait, you could reflect, you could correct, you could pause. That's almost gone. So, I mean, the latest example, you are seeing so many ads of 10-minute delivery, and I'm not scoffing at it. I mean, I'm sure it'll be 1-minute delivery 2 years down the line. But, earlier you made a shopping list, you went through it, your parents or your spouse or yourself cut off half the things, thinking whether I really need it or not. But now you will order, which is an irreversible order. And in 10 minutes, the product is at your doorstep and you're probably starting to consume. So I think the gap between production and consumption is thinning so fast that it has a huge implication for us. And in our profession, when I entered, there used to be a magazine, there used to be a newspaper, and used to be told to craft your skill accordingly. A magazine is a weekly or a monthly, newspaper is daily. And we used to think shifting from magazine to newspaper is a challenge because, you have to write for tomorrow morning audience. Now it's like, in the product that I'm helming, which is Times Online, it's every minute. So if Lata Mangeshkar has died, what's next minute? Is my best piece on Lata Mangeshkar out within a minute or in 10 minutes or in 1 hour? And what's the difference between what goes out in 1 minute and what goes out next day in the morning? Is what's going next morning substantially better than what goes out next minute? So one, you're competing with yourself, not just with, let's say, Indian Express, India Today, but you're competing with yourself because it's a flow. So I think, and so while a lot of core skills, Dr. Nagar talked about skills and being continuously on, I think a lot of core skills are the same. It's just how do you readjust? How do you sort of reframe in your own head your roles? So I think we are facing a lot of this consumption production gap has just almost disappeared. And the fact that I think Dr. Rupa talked about, and I think Dr. Sani also talked about the word is your audience. So now for Times of India, now in real time, you're serving some audience or the other all the time, whether that audience may be in America, in Europe, in India, in village. So I think that's a huge opportunity. But so that I think is one of the key things. So we try to, and I think it's valid for many other industries. We try to define our challenges as sort of 6 verbs, which is really not my exposition. It's basically the 6 verbs through which we say that our work now has to flow through. Is one is screening, so everything is on screen, and more things will go. Second is interacting, so whatever is on a screen has to be interactable worthy. Third is sharing, so everything that can be shared will be shared, and that creates a problem. And sharing is going to increase because sharing tools are getting more. Fourth is flowing. So flowing meaning earlier you could say that, okay, there's a weekly magazine, there's a monthly magazine, there's a daily product. And now your content supply is flowing continuously. So there's a Lata Mangeshkar tribute going today, or there's a Bappi Lahiri tweet going, or there's a Punjab election, tweet is going today, right now, and Facebook post is going the next 1 minute, and then the Instagram reel is going in the 5th minute, and a big analytical article is going with video next day. So this flow has to be maintained. You have no choice. You can't say, hold on, tomorrow I'll give you a great piece about Punjab voting. No, that tomorrow has to be today, and tomorrow you develop me a greater piece anyway. And the thing is this access versus ownership. I think this digital has brought, earlier you wanted to own everything, whether it was a newspaper article or a music or a video. Now it's about access, because you can't own. There's so much to own. So this thing between download and access, nobody wants to download anything anymore. Why would you download? I mean, how much can you download? So it's about access. So I think that's a huge challenge. So how can your work being accessible in real time? So, and then lastly, this thing about self-generating, it's a slightly jargonish term, which means that if you're putting out something, how can you improve it over time? So if I put out an article and if it has to be of timeless relevance, I have to go back to that article and update it continuously with new information and view. And I think that's true for a whole lot of work. Because my today's work will be discovered. Earlier, it couldn't be discovered. Discoverability is almost timeless. So if the discoverability is timeless, so has to be the value of the work. Because how can Rohit San's article or article that I have edited but not gone in my name, if it is discovered by Trupti after 5 years, is she still going to read it? And it's my challenge to make sure that you're still going to read it. So how can you use technology to make sure that timeless discovery matches timeless value? And if I can deliver it, I'll be useful. I'll stay in the market. I'll stay in the business. If I can't, then, well, too bad. Somebody else will do a better job, than me. So I think that is basically, I don't know whether I have rightly answered your question, but I just posed some of the challenges we face and trying to overcome. And I'll just pause here. Maybe I'm sure there are better people to answer some of this.
No, I think it's very insightful. Two things for me personally take away. One is the 6 verbs. I can actually see how I can also use it in our corporate life when we are looking at a culture transformation or any of these journeys. That's really helpful. The other element is what I hear from you is this whole pressure on self. So all along we spoke of how it's coming on others and the environment around, but a lot of self-inflicted pressure because of the demands and so used to instant coffee age that we are in, right? So okay. I'm just soaking in, I'm sorry. All right. Dr. Nagar, I'm coming back to you now. Is the recent pandemic has been the toughest and the strictest teacher to teach us the value of human life, and redefining life priorities. While organizations now have a sharper focus on employee wellness strategies, what challenges you think as psychologists we can anticipate and contribute, in making workplace a psychologically safe place to work? Because companies are struggling with this phase of how do you make psychologically safe place?
So my perception in this whole in this whole context is that, look, as we discussed a bit before among all of us, there is a major shift in the concept of work itself and the workplace itself. In the past, in the traditional world, it was a kind of a ritual for people to kind of get ready, go to office, work. It was a kind of a break from there was a break in between their personal life and the work life. And in some case, it was also a bit of a recluse from your personal hassles to come to the office and kind of, share, have friends, share coffee, have lunch, and all of that stuff, right? And there were a lot of strong relationships you developed at your workplaces. Now, this thing has become very, very blurred now, in a way that now, one, of course, your relationships are very, very virtual, both at work as well as your personal relationships are also very virtual, in my view. In the house, you have like four house members in 4 different corners of the house. They are having calls. One is studying, one is having one. So this is like a complete virtual different world we are in, right? And I think this is one big problem which we have. And I think definitely we've heard in multiple formats that this is one of the big area for psychologists to look at, how they can kind of this blurred boundary, how to address that, but because it's a big change, a personal impact on a psychological impact on the individuals in general. So that's one. The second thing which I see is that, we've been now, there are so many people, a whole lot of research behind this whole idea of single tasking rather than multitasking. And we have been more going towards a single tasking, more focus, hyper focus, all kind of those concepts which are there in neuroscience, which we keep reading, and this is a big literature around that. Now the problem is this whole virtual work environment has actually led people to do more multitasking, and in my view, we are kind of a bit going back in time on this, right? We are doing more and more multitasking. I personally see myself, and I know loads of the people who work for me, they kind of do the same thing. Some are kind of doing laundry and having the calls, and some are actually exercising and having the calls, and they are kind of trying to create a bit of a more efficient, and the efficiency of effective use of time is become very, very important for people. So they are kind of doing a lot of multitasking. And this, in my view, is it the right way to go? Is a big question. And I think this is, in my view, a big question for the psychologist also, because are we going towards the right direction? How do we create some very strong line of separation from our personal life to the work life, to one job towards another job? I think this is one, in my view, a very important area to think about. And I personally don't have an answer, because I have started to behave very differently myself, It's this whole flexibility of doing whatever you can at whatever time, and is like sometimes you start to enjoy that, And that third thing which leads to this is the whole hybrid work model. Now, for employers, hybrid work model is not just it's basically a tool to negotiate during the employment for individuals. It is not just a simple way to work, but it is actually a leverage to get the best employees, because people have started to enjoy this hybrid work culture. So there is a new normal already created, where people are not going to completely work from the office, because they kind of they've seen a world which they never saw it before. They could do a lot of work from home. So this is and now we are talking about hybrid work model. Now, what this hybrid work model beyond a point would be, it is time will say, because on one hand, employees have realized that there is a whole lot of a cost which they can save by not traveling, by having this work model. So they probably are thinking of letting go their cost of operation also in that process. And on the other hand, employees are now started to think about, okay, how do I make best use of this hybrid work model? How much should I even go to the office? And so on and so forth. And in my view, this kind of hybrid work model is what we had never experienced before. It's very much coming in all the industries. And this is going to change our personal priorities, individual priorities quite significantly. And I think this is another one important area for psychologists to look at, because the priorities at home have changed. Now the family members expects especially the ladies of the house, they do expect that they are able to work as well as they are able to be available at home for their children, for the family. And in India, I think it's more important because we still have a concept of joint families, right? And it's not that nuclear compared to the Western part of the world. So I think that there is a different kind of an expectation and this kind of a pressure in general in the system about this whole situation. So in my view, it is a new normal which we have to adopt. And this is a new normal which is already coming in. And this is a new normal which will impact a lot of our personal well-being, our own psychological well-being. And I think there is a whole lot of open field for the psychologists to kind of delve into and understand what all can be done, because this is not what we have seen any time before in the past. And this is a whole new field for all of us. We are kind of enjoying it, but we are also kind of getting trapped a lot into a lot of new things which we are not prepared for. This whole multitasking is what we really enjoy, but I'm not too sure it is good for us. Or are we even enjoying this? Like, is it even healthy for us, actually? So correct. I think this is something which is a puzzle. It is a puzzle in my personal mind also, but I think this is something we definitely require a much more deeper insight and solutions in long term. That's how I see it.
Superb. So I take 5 themes from what you say, and I'm just extracting and wearing my psychologist hat here. What an individual constantly today is fighting are wanting, and there's a need to feel connected and feel, want to belong, right? With this whole transition going, everything is virtual. The other one is I'm not good enough. That's the feeling that people will run, because you're always catching up with something or the other, right? So that's another emotion and feeling that you will live with. And the third is my space, my identity. Because now you just, you spoke of hybrid, you spoke of multitasking. So I think these 3 sentiments are prevailing, which really a psychologist can help, individuals when they come to you, it help individuals to deal with these things. So brilliantly said. Thank you so much. Dr. Bindu, I'm going to come to you. We are again in the era, and then you likely mentioned that kids are getting flooded with enormous amount of information, some relevant and many distractions. YouTube University, Wikipedia has made everything one click away. Many kids know far too much, and somewhere the innocence has been compromised. So what is the message you have for our psychologists on challenges to anticipate, and how can they help the schools to address these challenges?
I think we've reached a point where psychologists and schools, along with teachers, have to work very, very closely in order to support our children. And in fact, as a school, traditionally schools will have one stream of leadership, which is academic leadership. So you'll have coordinators that deal with academics. Over the past 6 years, we've created another stream of leadership that are responsible for the mental wellness and the well-being of the child. We've had to do this. So almost overnight, we had to double the number of middle leaders that we had, because we were seeing so many issues with children and their families. This is our reality. And I think it also stems from what Dr. Neeta just said. She spoke about, her worries about multitasking. The reality is, are parents paying attention to their children? Are they actively listening to them? Are they emotionally available to their children? The answer, quite honestly, is no. I don't blame them at all. It's not about bad parenting or anything. It's just that they're juggling so much and they're quite stressed themselves, and the children are not receiving that engagement and attention that they did in the past. And emotionally unavailable parenting has its own effects on the child, which we see in behavioral change in the child when they come back into school. right? It's very evident, it's very obvious to us. And it's also a part of what happens when cyberbullying takes place. There's a very, very strong link between the two. And I think I've been reading up psychological studies, Gabor Mate and people like that, who've written about emotional availability and children, their own emotional resilience, their insecurities, right, and their addictions, and the link between emotional availability and all of those. So I think it means sensitization, it means awareness and education. And schools need to do it, teachers need to do it, coordinators, the middle leaderships in schools and principals need to do it. It's become a huge area of work for our schools. One of the focus areas for us has been really to focus on a relationship-driven culture in our schools, because an antidote to all of these mental health issues is really bonding and connection. And can we establish that as a school? Can we continue to build that sense of community, which we tried to do online, and now they'll be back, so we're really relieved to have them all back in school. Do they have a sense of belonging? Do these children have a sense of belonging? Right? Can we create that in school? And the sense of belonging and culture comes through all the stakeholders again, the parents, the teachers, the children. So that's been a focus area. We've had to change the curriculum as well, simply because curriculum has to be more relevant, more engaging, more collaboration, which means children work together. If we really want to get them to let go of the social awkwardness that we're seeing in them, they have to work together. So a lot of group work, very, very interactive processes being used in class. And that's, from the school's perspective. But I think it means that counselors need to work very, very closely with schools. And counselors come into the picture when we're in a difficult situation. Schools are in a difficult situation, parents are in a difficult situation. But I think counselors also do have a role to play as far as preventive strategies are concerned. What is it that we have to offer our parents in order to prevent these situations from arising, mental health issues from arising with our children as much as possible? There's also a lot of shame and guilt associated when it does happen, when children have mental health issues. And somewhere it essentially means us having to work together in order to erase that thought, to say it's fine, it's like any other illness. We'll have to work together with it. So those are the thoughts that I'd like to share with counselors. Also, in India, largely, one of my observations is parents decide to divorce, and that's fine, right? It creates some trauma in the children. That's something that we have to work with. But India doesn't quite yet have a culture of an amicable divorce. It's invariably a custody battle. It's invariably the child that's traumatized. I mean, why? So even counselors, when you're dealing with these parents, I think it's very, very important. I have these discussions constantly with parents, basically in the interest of the child, so the child is not traumatized. But I think somewhere along the way that needs to, which means it's not just the child, it becomes family therapy at some point. And even if the family, it means sort of encouraging them, persuading them to come in for these meetings. This child has issues, that's not the root cause. The child is fine. It's these other extraneous circumstances that are creating these responses in the child. And the root cause must be dealt with. And that's where counselors have a very, very important role to play. So it's about awareness. Although we have adolescent education programs and so on, it means doing much more together for our children and their families. There's no other option for us going forward. And when I hear, like I said, Dr. Deeta, talking about multitasking, I have only one thought: what is the effect going to be on my children? That's the only thought that I have. So I also want to share a thought with Rohit. When we had our first suicide, two things happened. It was a shock to the system. This happened about 6 years ago. It was a complete shock to the whole system. We had a psychologist come in to work with the children who were traumatized by this incident. I found the psychologist just disappeared. Right? Ran through the school gates, never to return. And the question is, psychologists also need to be resilient. And what is it that you're going to do to build that resilience? Because these are situations that may arise and will continue to arise. The second thought in the role of the media is this. I found that the moment these articles came in the newspapers about suicide, we were worried about serial suicides because suddenly this young child had been glorified and suddenly it's a viable option for every other child who's reading this. And so we had to deal not only with the tragic circumstances of the family, the trauma that the children, the friends of the child were going through, the older children, the younger children. We are also dealing with the potential scenario of more suicides happening. And so we had to reach out to the newspapers to say it's high time you just stop publishing, suicides about children because it's such a concern for us, and this is a possibility. This is the message that they are getting. So somewhere again, there's got to be this very close connect as a society. It's media, it's psychologists, it's school, it's parents, it's a corporates. All right. I mean, is there really work-life balance? What's going on there? I mean, what can we do about it? Because ultimately, these children are our future. And if you read the statistics of mental health in adults and children, it's like 1 in 5. And that is quite worrying for a country, absolutely worrying for a child. So I think we need more psychologists coming into the forefront, more messages coming out through the papers, through various media, whatever the medium might be, digital media, print media, whatever it is. It's extremely important. It's as important as physical nutrition, which we all talk about. There's so many articles about it in the newspaper. It's good to see mental health issues coming out. It's good to have psychologists engage with parents and students on self-care and what that means. Extremely important. People think, it's common knowledge, right? That you need to sleep, that you shouldn't use your device for more than half an hour, 45 minutes a day, as far as children are concerned. You know what nutritious food means. But actually, I really wonder if they do know. Is it that they have the knowledge and don't want to use it? What is it? There's a little confusion right there. So even in the context of wellness, it's digital wellness. Are you keeping yourself digitally well by limiting your access to, what's available on the internet, on your screen? And those are thoughts that I'd also say that psychologists can no longer ignore, because it's a big part of it. While they don't have to be experts on it, they definitely need to talk about gaming, the precautions and discipline associated with it, digital footprints and what that means, social media safety, what that means, because there's cyber bullying as well, identity theft, security, cyber security. What does that mean for a child? Because we've had all kinds of strange and really worrying situations that have arisen because of children being on the internet and giving access to all kinds of confidential information about themselves and their families. So there's got to be this constant conversation between psychologists and schools. While before, schools just had, teachers and a nurse, and that was fine. Now schools have dramatically changed. They have leadership in academics, they have leadership for wellness, they have nurses, they have psychologists and counselors, and frequently now it's not one psychologist, one counselor for a school, it's multiple. Because the numbers have, increased so much. So yes, we have our work cut out for us, and I think let's look forward to working together in order to bring, the best possible environment for our children.
Absolutely.
So the additional challenge I find with parents is conflict in the houses have increased, because there's constant negotiation of how much time will you let your child be on that device? At what time will you take it away? When you try to take it away, there's always a negotiation. These are children. So the level of conflict in the house has gradually, I actually feel very, very sorry for our parents, because parenting just got harder. And there's nobody else to support them but schools, the pastoral coordinators, the wellness coordinators, the principals, and of course, psychologists like you who are invited into schools or who counsel the students.
Wow. It's amazing, the holistic perspective that you shared with us, and then you're right, there's a lot of work cut out for us in this space. I love the way you've even structured and addressed this, the whole structure of, leadership in academics and leadership here at the middle leaders concept. Very new, very innovative, and I think right, we will gear up for it. So last question, I'm going to still say Dr. Rohit Sharan. As much as Facebook is committed to continuing improving tools to give individuals the power to share their experience with others and the external world, what we really need are tools to connect with ourselves right now. From all that we've heard is, the space, how can we introspect? What are some things we need to look at? So how can psychologists, in your opinion, help us create such tools which are accessible for individuals?
No, thanks. No, it's as you asked this question, I think we're all asking that to ourselves. But so Facebook has actually been talked about a lot in this context for right reasons, because it's so big. If you combine it with WhatsApp and Instagram, it's just lords over our life. So in many ways, it's like it has also been compared with, there's this whole debate for 30-40 years, very valid debate of climate change. And now we are, there's solar energy, there's wind energy. So we think that we are making there's Paris Accord and all that. So this is social climate change is what it has been defined as. It's almost, if climate change was about extracting, resources that are depleting and are finite, this is about extracting our cognition. This is extracting our attention all the time. So Facebook, I think, was the master of extracting our attention and cognition all the time and keeping us hooked and never leaving us satisfied, because the more dissatisfied you are, the more hooked you will be, because so it's in the business of never satisfying us. So therefore, and see, so the point here, I think, Hridayan, which is that none of this is probably intentional from the founders of Facebook, Twitter, Insta, Snap, whatever you want to, these are all. But the fact is, it's there. Even if you didn't intend to harm, the harm is there. And I think what is, and Dr. Bindu referred to this in the context of the child suicide, very sad case. And that's where I think some things, when we think of solution, as you rightly asked, we need to be aware of. See, what happens is that social media changes the news media also. And maybe it shouldn't. And we should guard that. What happens is that suppose the news has gone out, and as Dr. Bindu rightly said, we need to guard ourselves. How are we putting it? So we have certain norms about names, about how you're pitching, how you should headline it, what you should word it. Do we always are able to stick to those norms? Not. Sometimes something slips in, which it shouldn't, in a way, with a very provocative headline has gone. But what has happened is social media has made our challenge more difficult, because even if Times of India doesn't write, it's out. Earlier, it wasn't out till Hindustan Times, Times of India, or Indian Express put out. Now it's out on Twitter or on Facebook, and you are discussing in your newsroom. What do you do? Because it's already out. What should not have happened in terms of communication has happened. So will you be seen, oh, Times of India did not cover it. How come? And people who are not affected directly by that event are saying, what? Why you guys did not cover this? Was news for me. And you're thinking, no, maybe I shouldn't cover. But half of your customers are thinking, what happened? How did you censor this? So there's always this dilemma. And I think that freedom to speech, freedom of speech, which is very valuable and should never be lost, somehow never accounted for freedom to reach, which was because there was no concept of freedom to reach. Now I have freedom to reach anybody, anywhere. And what I mean by that is one Twitter handle can potentially be as powerful as all of Times of India in terms of communicating. So there's social media influencers, and there's nothing wrong. People should have that voice. The problem is that does that one handle on Twitter or Instagram has the kind of responsibility and accountability that a brand like Times of India has or should have, and a mix of both. And I think that is where a lot of things are falling apart. Because in terms of freedom of speech now comes with freedom to reach. It's built in. So I can reach anybody anytime. But so the thing is, but if mainstream media, so to say, and I'm just saying mainstream media by mean Times of India and all the publications of the world, they have clear accountability and responsibility, which influencers don't have. And I think their power to disseminate an information that should not have been disseminated is unchecked. And I think that creates certain issues. But I think I was hearing, I think in terms of just a minute or two on solutions. I think we need to pay far more attention in our coverage to mental health. There's no doubt about it. Digital wellness, that our panelists talked about. We do need to find more articles, more features come out and package them well so that people really read it. We, in fact, often in newsroom have discussed that when some issue in the news is getting very emotional, should we put in an article or video saying, just hang on, just think, don't react before you think. So like whether it's hijab controversy that like everybody probably rightly has, because from news to emotion, there's now just no boundary. Everything gets very emotional very fast. And a lot of reaction is just emotional and very fast. And that gets converted into news almost unthinkably. And so we often think that should we have like a video from like, I don't know whether that's really, but so we had these YouTube videos from, I think many of you must have known of this School of Life, that Alan D. Button organization. So we always thought that when issue is getting very emotional, should we have appropriate YouTube videos of School of Life embedded? Okay, if you're getting too emotional, watch this video for 5 minutes. But I think it will be very good that I think it's our responsibility in Times of India and news media to reach out to people in your profession and do more on mental health, more aggressive, do more on our home pages. Maybe we should produce better articles, better videos, because social media's a shadow on news is, and it's a good shadow and a bad shadow both, is emotional overtones to everything. And I think if we are through our news, if we begin to embed emotional management through articles and videos, through help of people, experts like BPA Society and real doctors, I think it will help us. And I think it's our responsibility. And that's one big takeaway from me from this session, that I think we need to do a lot more. And we'll probably seek out more help from you in a more concrete manner.
Thank you so much. I think that's really insightful. The replacement of, while there is a compulsion to give a news, also equally important is to say the how part and give the tools there. Very well encapsulated. Thank you, panelists. I'm sorry, I think we've run out of time, rather we exceeded time. So I will have to, put a stop to this discussion, but we'll continue the conversation on. The discussion stops, but the conversation continues. Thank you so much for taking time off. We all are operating on different time zones. So, and I know some of you have just traveled, at today and reached late night and still you're up and running. So thank you so much for everything.
Thank you, Trupti.
Dr. Mehrotra, thank you.
I'm immensely grateful to Dr. Neeta Nagar, Dr. Bindu Hari, and Dr. Rohit Charan for a stimulating discussion what you had. And the questions you raised, Trupti Nayak, were just wonderful. So thanks a lot. And we will begin with the next session. And I request Dr. Preeti Jain to take.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Wait. Preeti. Yes, Preeti, you can start.
Yes, ma'am. A very good afternoon to one and all present here. I'm profoundly very fortunate to introduce Mr. Sachin Dedia. Sachin Dedia, sir, is the founder and CEO of Skynet Secure Solution. Sir is an independent cybercrime investigator and also a certified ethical hacker from 2007. Since 2007, Sir have been working as an independent cybercrime investigator and IT security expert for organizations both in private and public sector. Cybercrime, Sir has worked as a cybercrime investigator, and he has also worked as a security expert for various MNCs, government department, corporate, and even individual. He has also provided training to Mumbai, Gujarat, and also assist various other government departments of India with respect to their cybercrime queries. He has successfully conducted over 500 seminars and across India and enlighten over 50,000 of the participants. Sir, we are very fortunate that you are with us. So over to you, sir. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for inviting me once again. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll just like to start with my presentation. I'll be sharing my screen also in some time. So to welcome all the participants, and just as ma'am suggested, I'm going to keep it as a very interactive one. So I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, and I hope that you would respond. My first question to all of you is, when ma'am was introducing me, did anybody paid attention to as to how I was introduced? What was I introduced as? Anyone? See, it is a protocol, right? People are supposed to say the guest name, and after that, they are supposed to either say the designation as to where they are working or what they are doing, or they are supposed to say their qualifications. I'm seeing so many doctors, like doctor. I was very tempted to write, my qualification just for a brief point of time also. So what is my qualification? Anybody? What was I introduced as? Anyone? Make a guess.
Ethical hacker.
Yes. I'm introduced as an ethical hacker, right? Now, this is one of the only professions in the entire world where I have to use the word ethical before I can say I'm a hacker, right? Like, can you imagine any other profession ever coming and telling you like I'm an ethical doctor or ethical CA or ethical lawyer? No, nobody will do that, right? But now imagine me, like come into my shoes. Okay, what degree have I got? I'm an ethical hacker. And before COVID, I used to attend so many functions, religious events or marriage functions. Some uncle, some auntie, they always come and ask us, "Hey, beta, aap kya kaam karte ho?" And very proudly, I used to say to them, "Uncle, main to hacker hu." Like, now imagine the reaction. So now, I'm putting the questions to both of, I'm having professors over here. Okay. So now just imagine you asking some young student, what are you doing? And they reply that, okay, I'm a hacker. And I'm asking all the students also, next time for fun, do this. Next time when some uncle, some auntie, some relative will come and ask, कि बेटा क्या पढ़ाई करते हो? बोल दो, मैं तो hacker हूँ. Just for fun sake, say that you're a hacker. You may not be a hacker, but just for fun sake, say that you're a hacker. Please give me reactions. How will you react? Tell me, if I had told Preeti ma'am, ma'am, मेरा भी कुछ designation डाल दो, सबको doctor दिख रहा है, मेरे को थोड़ा guilty feeling हो रहा है, तो मेरे नाम के नीचे लिख दो ethical hacker. How do you think people would have reacted over it? Anybody?
Fear, I think. No?
Sorry, sir?
Fear, I said.
Fear. Yes, sir. Some little bit of fear would have come. Anybody else?
If you were my nephew or nephew, I would have told you, please, beta, tell me how to, make my computer more secure. ऐसे ना कहाँ जैसे ना हम लोग काम चलाते हैं सब बच्चों के.
True. So you would have tried to get some knowledge out of him. Okay.
Yeah. And help, please help me with this, help me with that. I like how I ask my children sometimes,
Yes, guide me with the new theories. Yeah, guide me with the new technology. Yes, that's a good thing. Okay.
Yeah.
What else? Okay. Now next
question. That's it.
Okay, so now I'll pose another question to all of you. I'm allowed to teach hacking. Okay, now imagine US, Indian governments, authorities, corporates, they told me कि जाओ hacking सिखाओ. Like they have actually given me permissions to teach how to attack or teach youngsters or teach anybody who wants to learn hacking. So I'm asking all of you a simple question. If anybody of you were to get a chance to become a hacker, how many of you would like to become hackers?
I would love to.
Majority of you would, right?
I would surely love, sir. I would surely love to be a hacker.
Yes. And I would request you do this experiment in the school or in the college also. Because I still remember, ma'am said I've done more than 500 seminars. Okay, the list is increasing also. But there are few seminars that still stand out, that remains in your mind, no matter how many seminars, how many workshops you have attended. One of the seminars that still stand out for me is when I'd gone to a school. Okay, it's a 9th standard class, a class of around about 30 students, and I don't know, the school must be, and it was a very hi-fi good school, and they said, cybercrime 9th standard ke bachche log ko bhi sikhao. And I was like, okay, fair enough. For the sake of experience, I will also go. And I started with my normal flow and everything like that. After 2 minutes, I ended up asking the normal question itself. आप में से कितने लोगों को hacker बनना है? Like imagine a class of 9th standard students, and I'm asking out of the flow, how many of you want to become hackers? Please tell me how many of them must have raised their hands. It's a class of 30 students, 9th standard class. कितने लोगों ने हाथ ऊपर किया होगा? 30 students. The question is, how many of you want to become hackers? Make a guess.
All of them, I'm sure.
Yes. No, yeah. When we counted the hands, backbenchers तो दो हाथ ऊपर कर रहे थे. मतलब उछल के, like like make me a hacker kind of a thing. At one point of time, it became very, very difficult for me to control because one was pulling the hand, one was pulling the shirt. Like that excited they were. But yeah, that reminds that that is there in the mind. No matter how many seminars we have done, but that 9th standard seminar will remain in mind. The kind of eagerness the youngsters will show to become hackers or so-called ethical hackers. Now, I'm going to show you what do we do, okay, as a hacker, what do we learn to protect or what do we need to attack, basically, anybody. So what I'm going to now show you, I think all of you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so now as a hacker, okay, what would you like to attack? As a hacker, see, I'll keep it very short, okay, I'll also tell you. I think all of you must have seen Harry Potter, must have grown up seeing Harry Potter, right? Basically. So who is the main villain in Harry Potter? We can see the name now because the series is over. So we can see the name of the main villain. Anybody? If you remember Harry Potter, who was the main villain?
Voldemort.
Lord Voldemort. Am I right? Now what he did, he wanted to live for eternity. I mean, he wanted to live forever. So what he did, he divided his soul into 7 pieces. And until those pieces were destroyed, he cannot be killed. What were those 7 pieces? What were they called? Come on, fans of Harry Potter, quickly. What was those 7 pieces called? Horcrux. And until those Horcrux are destroyed, you cannot kill him, right? Today, if anybody of you were to get a chance to do the same to become Voldemort, Lord Voldemort, I'm pretty much sure a part of our soul would go into a mobile phone. Am I right? I mean, chaho ya na chaho, part of our soul would go into a mobile phone. Agreed, everybody? Sote, utte, before we go to sleep, after we wake up, every time the phone is in our hands. So one of our Horcrux would be nothing but a phone. Right, everybody? And this is applicable to all. So from a hacker's point of view, what would I like to attack? Very simple, phone. I hope you're getting me. Like, if a part of your soul is in the phone, why not attack the phone itself? And see, imagine the kind of data that I'm going to get up. So what I'll do is I'm going to share you one software. Okay. You may use it, you may misuse it. I'll leave it up to you. So the kind of knowledge that I'm going to give you, it is like I'm going to sell you one knife. Okay. Use the knife to cut vegetables, make beautiful salads. Or use the same knife to go and kill someone. Basically, my knowledge is going to remain the same. But I have to share this knowledge because unfortunately, if I don't share this knowledge, we can see a lot of damages which are happening because of this. Because people are not aware. People are not aware that how their photos are getting, they are getting blackmailed, how their data has been uploaded, how somebody is able to misuse their financial data and everything like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, this is the software, Plexi. I hope you can see on my screen.
Sachin, we're not able to see the screen as yet.
Okay, wait. I'll just reshare. I'll just stop the share. Okay.
The screen is shared, but data is
I'm
not.
not able to. Okay. Let me just see. Okay, better.
Yeah, it's visible now. Yeah.
So this is our main villain. This is the main hero of our cybercrime world, Plexi. Okay, all the students and all the professors. It's for both of us. Okay, this is a wonderful software from our point of view. If this gets installed into somebody's phone now, it will be totally be hidden. I repeat, it will totally be hidden. It will be running in the background. And see the kind of data that it will take out. Okay, see the kind of data. People can listen to your phone call recording. Then they can listen to your environment recording. Okay. Then Of course, they can see your Facebook messages, your Snapchat messages, your Hi, your Kick, your Instagram, your Line, your Skype, your Viber. Even they can read your WhatsApp messages, your Google, your Hangout, your QQ, your Telegram, your Tinder messages, your WeChat messages, your email. They can read your Gmail. They can even read your address book. Does not matter. But SMS messages. Can anybody tell me what is the point of reading SMSs today? What I mean, what benefit does anybody get by reading an SMS today?
OTP.
Perfectly right. They're able to get the OTPs of the bank, right? Then they can do location tracking. They can do geofencing, application activity, install applications. They can see they can see your photos. They can see your videos, audio files, wallpaper, calendar, practically everything. They can remotely activate your camera also. So, when people come and ask, sir, uska Facebook account hack karke do, sir, uska Instagram account hack karo, sir, uska WhatsApp hack karo. As an ethical hacker, as a hacker, we see only one simple thing, bhai, ek kya karoge? Pura phone hi hack kar do. Chapter khatam. Right? Now, all the students and all the professors, just pay attention, okay? Because this is damaging to both of us. This software is also used for personal purposes. Husband has got it out on wife, wife has got it out on husband. So you imagine what is going to happen. Wife goes to the lawyer or good friend and then says, "मेरा husband बहुत आउटस्टेशन घूम रहे हैं." Suggestion क्या आता है? Gift him a phone. Before the phone is gifted, install this kind of an application and done. To all the young students, I am very sorry to inform you in this manner, but I think all of you are also aware. Boyfriend-girlfriend relationship is pretty much common. And in today's life, like in today's time, we exchange phones, we exchange a lot of photos. But एक बार भी अगर phone उसके हाथ में चला गया, सामने वाले के हाथ में, it just takes 3 minutes to install this application. It will be running in the background, and then you can imagine how much of your data will be taken out. And now to all the young students, those who have not got married as of now, please remember this. You might not remember anything from my entire seminar, but do remember this. Now we are seeing this software also used at the time of marriages. What families are doing? Daughter is about to get married, son is about to get married. So what the families do? At the time of engagement, a lot of gifts are exchanges, right? A lot of gifts get exchanged. You give something, you get something. So now imagine a family would not be curious, like Indian family is typically curious as to how good the other family is, right? Or especially how good the boy or the girl is. So, what they are going to do now? Imagine one of the engagement gifts is nothing but what? Make a guess, anybody. What would be one of the engagement gifts that the family would be giving to the other boy or the other girl? Yes, perfectly right. Mobile phone. Phone gift करो, फिर खानदान में कोई इंक्वायरी करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Right? So to all the boys, to all the girls, please remember this. What I'm about to say. Do not accept phone as a way of a gift. Simple rule in life. I know ये बहुत tough होगा. ये बहुत ही strong decision लेना पड़ेगा. But you have to learn to control your emotions, no matter how good the in-laws are, no matter how good the other person is, no matter how good the client is also. Okay. But if you really, really want to protect your data and your privacy, then I can go a step further and I can also say do not accept electronic device only as a way of a gift. But yeah, at least electronic device to take care. But phone, you imagine, like everything is on the phone itself. Right. I can even cover financial frauds which are happening because of such applications getting installed. Basically. But I'm just giving all of you a heads up, instead of them targeting your Insta and your Facebook or something like that, they are just targeting your phones itself. Okay, I hope this is clear. Any doubts in this, please ask me anything that you have in your mind. Don't misuse it. Okay, it's not legal, but I was just trying to give you a heads up that yes, such softwares exist. So next time when some friend of some colleagues come and say that मेरा कोई phone की बात सुन रहा है, somebody is seeing my WhatsApp messages, it would mean that somebody has installed such kind of spy application inside their phone. Yeah. So this was actually the question that I was hoping that somebody would ask. How do we check basically if this software is inside of a phone or not? Good question. I'll quickly cover this point. There are 3 ways to find this out. Okay. One, and I'll share the PPTs. Okay, don't worry. I'll share all the steps, all your safety devices and all the steps. I'll share it with ma'am. But I'm just going to show you. Run a good antivirus inside your phone. First step is what? Run some good antivirus. So it could be any antivirus. Okay, Quicken, Lookout hai, Kaspersky Sky. But generally, running a good antivirus helps us to understand, this antivirus up to some extent will definitely help to figure it out if something is wrong inside of a phone or not. Okay, this is the first part. Run some good anti-spy applications or antiviruses. This is one part. One way, not the only way, but one way. Second way is, I think all of us would be aware of something called as Android app permissions. See, I'm going a little fast because I have to cover some points in a limited span of time. But I think all of you would be aware of something called as Android app permissions. So see, when you go into settings of the app, you go into settings, apps, and then you check for permissions. Every application must take some permissions. So a spy application would have taken a lot of permissions, basically, for your recordings, for your audio, video, location, or something like that. So suddenly, if we see that, okay, a spy application has taken a lot of permissions, basically, like we can see one application which has taken a lot of permissions of audio, video, location, and everything like that. That means it's a red flag. I mean, that means it's a trigger. It means that somebody has installed something inside our phone, and we can then go ahead and remove it. Last step, if you still have any doubt, and if you're not able to figure it out, but you still have a very strong doubt that something is wrong inside your phone, one last thing, factory reset your phone. Phone ko format maar de. Before you format the phone, take the backup of the data. Do not take the backup of the applications. I repeat, do not take the backup of the applications. Format the phone and give it back. I hope this is clear, everybody. Okay. And any doubts in this so far? So I'll move on to the next point. Okay. Don't worry, I'll be sharing the steps. Okay, I'll be sharing all the details. Okay, all the presentations and steps I'll be sharing. Okay, next part. I'm going to Google. What I'm about to show you is, especially since all of us are professors and we'll be interacting with a lot of young students who have this very wonderful habit of putting a lot of their photos online. I think all of you would be aware, Insta, Snapchat, WhatsApp, DP profiles and everything like that, all the selfies and everything like that. So this is one exercise which I periodically ask, especially the girls to do. Okay, so what I would request is, I'll ask them to go into Google, okay, and ask them to put their name. Go to Google, put their name, comma Mumbai. Okay, even if you don't type Mumbai, it's okay, but just go to Google, type your name. Now, as per Google, will give you a lot of results, like in LinkedIn or Startlinch or Facebook, and like all the other websites and Insta and everything like that. But as per Google, this is an all search. I hope you can see on the screen. It's all search. All ke baaju mein kya hai? Images. I periodically ask all the girls to go over there and click on images and then check how many of their photos have gone public. Okay, I hope you understand it. I would request the girls to go over there, click on images, and then check how many of your photos have gone. I hope this is clear, everybody. Please find out if any of your images are part of any Google database search or not. देखो, अगर फोटो नहीं मिलता है ना, तो दुखी नहीं होने का. Okay, consider yourself lucky that your life has still not gone public. Okay, from a boy's point of view, opposite reaction आता है, opposite. हम ज्यादा खुश हो जाते हैं कि किसी ने तो हमारा फोटो डाला, किसी ने हमको वैल्यू किया, somebody put our images, like girls' point of view, I would sincerely request, please check that none of the photos should be part of any, in case if you find your photos, okay, in case if you find your photos, none of the photos should be part of any dating website, any pornographic website, या उल्टे सीधे blogspot का part नहीं होना चाहिए. How do we find out? Very simple. Suppose if you click on the photo, okay, if I click on the photo over here, see at the very bottom, right hand side, Google will tell you from which website he has got this photo. You can see on the right hand side, right? The photo is enlarged, first days of a new season. This is the name of the website. If I go to the next photo, it is LinkedIn. So if the photo is coming from LinkedIn, I think all of you are aware of LinkedIn, so it's okay. But I'm just saying, like one more line. So what I'm trying to make you understand here is photos coming from reputed websites, it is going to be okay. But none of the photos should be part of any dating website, any pornographic website, or something of that sort. Okay, I hope this is clear, everybody. Of course, one of the next thing that you will ask me is very obvious things that you're going to ask me is, agar photo दिखता है, unknown website के ऊपर है, how do we remove it? Basically, right? So simple. I'll share the steps also for all these things. Okay, little technical, it will become little technical. But I have already created a draft. We have done this numerous times. What you need to do, wherever your photo is, okay, wherever your photo is, you need to copy the URL. Like say this one. Okay, you need to copy the URL as to where the photo is. Basically, you can see this over here, right? Copy this URL. Link pe tick karo, copy the URL, paste the URL in your own email ID, create an email ID. I mean, you have your own email ID, create a new mail, put the URLs, write this content. The above link contains my photo which has been posted without my consent or permission. Please remove it or I'll file police complaint or take legal action against you. See, police complaint करना ना करना बात की बात है, दिखने में कुछ आता नहीं है. I hope clear है. अब आप ये मेल भेजोगे किसको? Where will you send them? Well, every website will have a contact us or a feedback form. I hope you're getting it. Every website, wherever our photos are, they should have a contact us or a feedback form. Find out where their contact forms are, find out where their disclaimers are, get their email IDs, and you can put it up over there. You can send a mail, get their email IDs, and you can send a mails from over there also. Otherwise, they will have a feedback form. The application, the website will have a feedback form, and we can give it in the feedback itself. Okay, so detailed things I have shared in my PPTs, how you can do it. But for now, initially, I would request if you can do this exercise so as to ensure that our images are not getting publicly available. Okay. Can an individual take down information and images that they have not uploaded? Difficult. So we have an act which is going to come up in India that is known as Data Protection Act of India. Okay, on basis of that, we can try that. But as of now, it's going to be difficult because all our data centers are outside India, like, Insta, Snapchat, Gmail, Facebook. So they don't comply to our regulatory requirements. What if you find? How can you get it back? Okay. So actually, if we find our photos, we are actually supposed to remove it. Like go to the website and inform the website. I just showed you. We just need to remove it. Basically, that's the best thing that we can actually do over here. Okay. One more point which I would like to cover here is, since I was also listening to the panel discussion happening prior also. So I have had my fair share of cybercrime cases and, working with psychologists, parents, girls and everybody, boys. So I hope all of you are aware that majority of the time in a cybercrime, who would be the victims? Like suppose when I talk about cybercrime, who would be the more victims? Like men, women, girls, who are more victims of cybercrime?
Children, maybe.
Children, yes. And boys or girls? Women, obvious, right? But now the tables have turned. In the last, because of COVID, in the last two years, even boys, men are becoming victims of cybercrime. I think if you Google it up, there's something called as sextortion. Men sitting freely, nothing much to do. So somebody would send a friend request on Facebook. They become friends on a single day. They will start with the video chats and gone. Then the blackmail will start, basically. Okay. But now what we have done is, I'm going to tell everybody, based on my experience, I'm just going to share my experience. Okay. When a girl suffers from a cybercrime, like she's been bullied, she's been cyberstalked, somebody has created a fake accounts and everything like that. 5-7 years back, I used to go and tell the girl, "Ye police ka number hai, wo police officer मेरे को बहुत अच्छे से जानता है. You come to the police station. If you want, I will also come. Discuss it out with the police." Out of 10, how many girls would have come? Make a guess. I'm talking 5-7 years back. Not a single one. Then I realized there is point in asking the girl to come to the cops. So then I used to say, एक काम करो, मैं पुलिस वाले का नंबर देता हूँ, फोन पे बात कर लो उनके साथ. तो 10 में से हार्डली एक जन ने डायरिंग बताया कि फोन पे बात करें. फिर मेरे को लगा कि चलो वो मैन है, ये वुमेन है, मतलब गर्ल है, तो उसको बात नहीं करनी होगी. तो मैं लेडी ऑफिसर का नंबर देता था to talk. How many of them must have talked? Suppose if I'm giving a lady officer number and asking her, a girl, to discuss a case where she's been bullied, blackmailed, or somebody's created a fake account or uploaded a photos. How many girls would take the courage to talk to a lady officer also to discuss out the case? Honestly speaking, honestly speaking, again from my experience, no. Would they like to talk to a teacher? No. Would they like to talk to a psychologist? No. Would they like to talk to a person like me? No. मतलब ठीक है मेरे को भी थोड़ा बहुत बोल देते थे but इतना फील नहीं. Based on my experience, what has happened is what we have done is in every girls' college we have created a group of volunteers. Okay, group of volunteers, cyber experts. Okay, what we call them, and we train them for free. Basically, we give them 1 or 2 days of free training, but we need some good volunteers. And then we let the college know that there is a group who can help with such cases. Now a girl knows that there are similar kind of girls who can help. A girl is willing to talk to a girl more. That is what I have learned from my experience, not from being, I'm no psychologist, but I'm just telling from my experiences. And once the girl knows that there are some good amount of people who can help me. So what we just simply tell the girl, look, I have a group of 25 girls with me who have created all the Insta IDs and Facebook IDs and everything like that. If any Insta ID is trying to blackmail you or bully you, let me know. Because a girl is fighting independently, alone with that Insta ID. Now, if I tell the girl, boss, I can give you 25 IDs who can go and pick back at the same Insta ID, who can report, who can give any number of messages, who can bring down that boy. Because now, imagine a boy's shoes. A boy who's trying to blackmail a girl suddenly receives messages from 20 or 25 Insta IDs, threatening, blackmailing, whatever you call it. What do you think the boy might do? Either he would get really hyped up and do more damage, or otherwise he would back down. But majority of the time she understands that now there's a real good strength behind that girl and there's no point in taking further risk, basically. So yes, we have been doing that. And then we also tell the girl to go and talk to a psychologist or talk it out with the parents or maybe some cousins or something like that if the damage is further. But yeah, this is what has helped us so far technically, basically. So this is what we have been doing in various colleges also. And this is what we also we would also request, Preeti ma'am also, that if you want, we can do it with your college also. Find me, give us some good volunteers and we will train them for free, but we need them to help solving such kind of cases itself. So anybody who's interested, you can contact us and we can take it forward also. Okay, I don't know. I think I'll be running short of time. So yeah, this is my email ID. This is my mobile number. Anybody has got any doubts, any questions, you can ask me.
It's not visible, Sachin.
Sir,
It's
not
visible, yeah.
Email ID and contact number is not visible, sir.
Okay.
May write in chat box also.
Sachin, that was very
Yeah,
secure.
I'll share it in chat box also.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry I had to go a little bit fast, but I'll be sharing all the presentations, all the safety tips with ma'am. I would request please go through it. Learn to safeguard your mobile first, then your emails, then your social medias and finance also. So I'll be sharing all the details. Okay. So thank you, Preeti ma'am, once again for inviting me. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Sachin, for taking time from your busy schedule. As always, I mean, we have experienced how you talk and we have experienced how you had come to our college also. So your talk is always engaging because it is more of practical. I remember when you came to college, you had surprised us all by hacking our phones in the audience. So today also Sir's talk was very engaging. He initiated with the talk by explaining us about FlexiSpy software and how easily it can hack into our phones. He has also told us about how to take care of when we are in the digital world by do not accepting phone as a gift, and that's a really very valuable suggestion. We have also heard from him that how we can go to Android app permissions and how we can make our life more secure in this digital world. I'm sure, sir, what you have talked about the training of volunteers in colleges, I'm sure we will be taking it up, and it's a great thing it would be. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much for sharing very, very valuable practical information about how to be safer in the digital world. Thanks again, sir.
Thank you, and we will now move over to the next session, and I request Dr. Puratnare Madam to take.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, good
So,
afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, madam, you are.
Yes. So good afternoon, everyone. What wonderful sessions and panel discussions that we had. And everyone was talking about mental health, be it in organization, be it in school, be it in cyberspace. And now we are coming to the core mental health aspect. And BPA is obviously Psychology Association, and that is very, very important. So I have my co-panelists with me today. Dr. Parul Tank, she's MD psychiatry, and she's a gold medalist from GS Medical College. She has a center called Nimai, where we all are associated with. Her area of specialization is de-addiction and adult psychiatry. She's also interested in children and women's counseling issues. And she's very pro psychology, and obviously she's at the MDR trainer, also one of very few trainers that we have. So Dr. Parul will be moderating the session. Before she starts, I'll introduce the other speakers also. We have Dr. Dushyant Patlikar, who is also a psychiatrist, MD from GS Medical College, a very popular trainer and a great sense of humor that he has, and makes the most complex concepts seem so easy. And one of the brave person who went to Afghanistan for trauma training, and I always appreciate him for that. He has also, along with Dr. Sushma and her team, and amazing experiences that he always shared with us about his Afghanistan experience. He is also trained in EMDR, a trainer. As I said, very few trainers of EMDR. He is one among them. I'm sure they all have very huge CV, and I'm not going to go into the details because of the shortage of time. Then we have Dr. Bharti Sawathe. She's PhD in psychology, also has education management degree. I remember she was our next door neighbor when we both were in psychology in SNDT. She is associated with a lot of MNCs and a lot of hospitals, and she's doing great work. And she has an organization called Spring, which is for counseling and for coaching services. Lastly, but not least, we have our own Dr. Sharmila Banawar. She is BPA EC member, and she's been very, very actively participating in BPA. She has her own counseling center called Mind Spa. She is also associated with prestigious hospitals of Mumbai. She has expertise in psychodiagnostics, assessment, and testing tools. And on behalf of BPA, I welcome you all. And I have a co-chairperson, Dr. Amitabh, who is also part of MD Shah Mahila College as well as BPA. And now I hand it over to Dr. Parul Tank to take the proceedings forward.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mrinalini, for this brief, concise, and very efficient introduction of all of us. As the topic for today, it is on tele-mental health, and it's rightly so that we are doing it online. I hope next time we will be doing it offline and maybe retrospectively think how the pandemic affected us. But we are at the tail end of the pandemic. So as the
hopefully.
I hope so, yes. Generally, they say it lasts for 2 years. So I hope our 2 years are over. Let me begin and open the panel discussion for today. I thought that let's start with brave Dushyant. He has faced Afghanistan. So rather than saying ladies first, let's start with Dr. Dushyant, who's a very, very dear colleague as well of mine. He is been extremely busy. I was speaking to him in terms of tele mental health, tele psychiatry, tele psychology in the last 2 years. And I just wanted to ask him and open this discussion that what different populations did you see during the last 2 years? And how did you do the management? I'm going to be a very generic question. So it could be medication management and management in general.
Yeah, thank you, Parul. Thank you, BPA, for having me here. Uh, Bravery in Afghanistan. Yeah, that is the first thing I would like to address. I went there because Dr. Sushma Mehrotra was with me and because she encouraged all of us. And with her, I feel very safe. And I was sure that because she has planned it, everything will go according to the plan. And that is what it turned out to be. So I am brave only because of the good support that I have. Yeah. Online telemedicine, online counseling, telemedicine, it came at the right time, and I'm told that the efforts were going on to bring the telepsychiatry in, and it was only speeded up because of the pandemic. So it was going to come, but because of the pandemic, they brought it early. What kind of patients? And I have seen it was practically all kind of patients, right from ADHD, scholastic backwardness in children, to substance use, substance abuse, agitation, depression, and as you would have expected, stress because of COVID and lockdown. When people saw their family members and their neighbors getting affected, it created a lot of symptoms in them. People who had some um, some conditions like phobia, panic, depression, they were showing more symptoms because of COVID, and also cases like dementia with agitation and psychosis and things like that. So all kinds of symptoms and diagnoses were seen. And so when people would tell me that they want to have a face-to-face consultation, I would tell them that this is face-to-face consultation, because we won't be able to see our faces if we meet in the clinic. Because there were restrictions. We were told that the maximum time that you should spend with single patient can be 4 minutes. The room has to be well ventilated, and the distance has to be at least 6 feet. So the virtual uh, meeting was actually, according to me, face to face. Yeah.
Very well put, Dr. Dushyant. So actually, I think tele-mental health or tele-psychiatry was one of the few fields that could continue absolutely unhindered, because as I used to tell patients, I don't need to touch you. I don't need to evaluate and examine you. We can just do a face-to-face. And I think online doing a face-to-face, the emotions would be better seen rather than behind a mask. And of course, I think a lot of patients, all kinds of patients came to all of us. And as you said, that there was more anxiety kind of patients. I noticed a lot of them would also relapse during this pandemic. Do you think that's true? Did you see more of anxiety disorders or current and pre-existing disorders?
Yes, precise. That is what I saw. Uh, People who had obsessive compulsive disorder spectrum disorders uh, experienced a lot of exacerbation, and it was a tricky situation because on one side they were told not to be so obsessed about viruses and illnesses, and this is what they saw everybody doing. So yeah, I did see a lot of cases related to anxiety, and I will be very honest with you. I was overwhelmed with the amount of work that I had, people calling in, and so many of them were stuck at different places, and suddenly the lockdown was announced. So they became panicky because medicines were not available at times, and they were not very comfortable talking to the local psychiatrist, even if they were available. And it was overwhelming. And one theme which was talked about in previous sessions in this conference was being communication and bonding. and resilience. And I think talking to my friends did help me. Dr. Parul is one of them, Dr. Sushma Mehratra. And I feel that because of this support, because of ventilating, uh, I found it easier to take care of so many cases. Otherwise, it would have been really, really difficult.
Thank you, Dr. Dushyant. I think you very rightly said that we were all very overworked as mental health professionals and also overwhelmed at times. And I think who better to tell us than Dr. Bharati, who is, I think, handling a big team of psychologists along with a big source of patients. And I would like to hear your inputs, Dr. Bharati, on what challenges did you face during the pandemic, and how overwhelming was it for you, and how is the working like?
Thank you. And I think I will agree with Dushyant also, and you, what you said. There were a lot of people who were reaching out, and thankfully we have a team of 20 people. We faced quite a few difficulties in terms of even the counselors had problems at home. They had COVID parent or in-laws, and it was very, very tough for all of us. And somehow, I think online really helped all of us. I think I cannot but thank this platform which was created. And actually, because we do work with corporates, we do coaching, so this was already used. And so it became easier. We used to do Skyping a lot. So in those days, Skypes was very, very famous. And then we just slipped into Zoom. Like Zoom has been one of the biggest easy method to reach out to people. And I think we have more advantages of being online. How long we can really use, etc. We'll have to look at it. But I must say that it helped us. So that's very, very important. The second part, sorry, Parul wants to say something.
I'm waiting. Yes.
There were a lot of people who could not actually, because of their introversive nature, or they don't want to step out, or that is their personality. And this really helped. We could reach out to quite a few people. And now they saved, of course, on transport, and we all were working from home easily. So plenty of good things which happened. And I think we are very big survivals, and we can just manage many situations. Somehow it looks like we are very resilient people somehow. So we managed it. At the same time, of course, we know that there are very many disadvantages, and we cannot, I mean, the meeting in person is very different, and it cannot be replaced. And one of the big thing which I felt is that you couldn't guess perfectly like what he's doing, like his health and hygienic pathways. Like when you meet them in person, you can make out quite a few things. And we just missed out several times. And then we had to connect to the family members or somebody around, like as a referral point, to see really whether there is a health hygiene around. Depression was heavy. And you can't make out. Sometimes when the person walks in, your body odor, how unkept he is, everything can be immediately picked up. So those were tough things I think we went through. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Bharti. So what you're telling is like these were the challenges we faced as therapists, because we could not get the entire history taking, the holistic history taking that you get when you physically actually see your patient rather than on Zoom. Am I right?
Yes. Also, sometimes, they couldn't find a separate space to openly talk. Like our session is at least of 1 hour duration or more. And that separate space, sometimes if they were all there in one house, it was a challenge. But somehow everybody managed it. I think when you come to a center, you get a separate, quiet place to sit down and talk with your therapists, your counselors. That wasn't available really. Also, I must say that there was one client, I remember he was on drugs, and parents were helping from that side, and a lot of de-addiction, like a team was prepared, like some drug expert and psychiatrist, and we from this side. And we missed out quite a few symptoms and signals when he used to relapse, because it was this not on in the face makes it a lot of difference. But of course, there are many people who are now wanting to be only online. That is another thing. And as a counselor, you don't want to be in front of the computer all the time. That is the biggest disadvantages for people like me who come from old school, where sitting in front of the computer for a counselor for hours together I'm like too tired, and also many of our team members are fed up of it. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Bharti. I think very aptly put that there were challenges that you all faced in therapy, as well as challenges as a therapist. I think sitting in front of the computer the whole day, doing online therapy, and people now also expecting, because as you said, it saves on time, it saves on travel. I would also like to add that because of that, however, there's been an advantage, isn't it, that you've been able to reach out to more people, like say somebody from Chhattisgarh or somebody from a small village near Raipur. Am I right, Dr. Dushyant and Dr. Bharti, that I don't think we would have spoken to these people, or these people would have never had access to mental health.
Absolutely.
Yes. What do you all feel about that?
Yeah. There were restrictions during the lockdown, so even if they would have liked to come and visit me, it was not possible. So I could uh, talk to people on phone. Some of them didn't have a smartphone, so then talking to them and then finding out a local chemist, then asking him for his number and permission to receive the WhatsApp prescription, and then sending him a prescription, and then coordinating and seeing that they get the medicines. Some of them didn't have a smartphone, so we could manage in spite of that. And yeah, so reaching people who are underserved and who would otherwise have not got a chance to meet a psychiatrist or a mental health professional. So absolutely, that is a big advantage. Yeah.
And I think with advantages come disadvantages, as Dr. Bharti put it, that going to different places and trying to speak, because in Mumbai and in certain cities, everybody lives in like a 1 BHK or 2 BHK with 8 people involved. And where do you go? So I'm sure it must have been very challenging.
Yes, I suppose that has been a biggest thing for a lot of people. And because all the members were sitting at home, even children were working, studying on phone. So that was a tough one. Also, you get that 1 hour escape also. Even if you travel outside your house, there are a lot of people who's like sometimes, for them, going to a therapist is a respite. And that was not available. There was no respite from a continuous person in your face. So there was that part for a lot of patients. Also for the counselors, you step out, you feel different. So I would say, I don't know whether I'm talking more disadvantages than advantages. Of course.
I don't think it's maths. We don't have to equalize it. We are in mental health, so it's a relative thing.
Yes.
Thank you, both of you. I think I will come to Dr. Sharmila, who had the most challenges of all, and I think who did the most challenging work during the pandemic and still does it, where she and her team were trying to do, or successfully doing, I may add, online testing. So Dr. Sharmila, please enlighten us as well as all the participants that what guidelines did you follow for online testing and how did you go about it?
Hi, Dr. Parul. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. As we know that testing is something that, we are so used to traditionally doing it in person in a physical setting. So a lot of the physical cues, verbal, non-verbal cues, we had to be very mindful. So luckily, initial phase was that, the first 2-3 weeks of the COVID-19 lockdown, that was in March and April, it felt as if, okay, can we just wait for some time and see? But then as the uncertainty continues and there seems to be no finish line, it was high time that, we had to adapt. And at that time, there was APA came up with guidelines, and, that came in very handy, because it is with experience, but also it always helps to go by principles and guidelines. So the first one was not to jeopardize the test security. So no matter what, don't send test materials, the stimulus cards, the test material to, there have been certain things like, okay, can we courier it? So don't ever do that. Don't jeopardize that, because clients can, photocopy it, etc. So then that was the first thing. Second is, we tried to do as best as we could in terms of what we can mindfully and ethically do. So it was about testing the mechanics of the different technical platforms, giving them options about what is available, checking their device. Not everybody has been very comfortable using these devices. So some try to use it on smartphones. So we tell them at least have a bigger screen, because when we look at what is recommended by APA is that you have a screen which is at least 15.5 inches diagonally. And if you're doing an online screen share, like for a stimulus card, in terms of say TAT, CAT, or OSHA, it would be that, the screen share would also allow the image which the clinician is presenting should be at least 9.5 inches diagonally or more. So because there are certain softwares which can shrink the image. So we are looking at how much we can keep up with the standard measures which is recommended and which is copyrighted by every test and author. The third one was about being mindful of data quality. So there are a lot of verbal data which we can gather, but there are the non-verbal cues which get missed. So again, being mindful and also looking at it more comprehensively, how we can factor that. The fourth one was about how we can think critically that not all tests can be done online. So especially the cognitive ones, the neuropsychological ones, involving visuospatial, perceptual reasoning, that was not possible. So there were certain subtests which had to be substituted, and unless really necessary, in consultation with the psychiatrist, that we would look at, can we defer it? And then in the lean period, post the lockdown, have them to do it in person. The whole idea was that how we can widen the confidence interval, we can make guided clinical decisions. The whole idea being that in clinical testing, we look at what is timely, what is necessary. There may be some high-stakes situations where it is necessary, but we have luckily been able to use a combination of formal and informal testing using the overall assessment procedure, where we back it up with clinical interviews. Luckily, we have a lot of structured clinical interviews which supplements it. So we don't go by just the test scores. It is so important to look at many other variables in terms of what's the background of the individual, what is the culture, context, and what is the reason for referral. So putting all that together, we've tried our best and we have been fairly successful. So, but also then comes a complacency that, okay, how I wish that this can continue. So it is also very important to look at that this is an interim thing, and time and again, when the lockdowns have been lifted, we have come back to physical testing. But there are some clients now who have gotten very comfortable and they say, can we do a retest later whenever, which has been required, or an ongoing retesting? It's like, I can come, but I'll prefer to do it online. So then we would dissuade that. Finally, what has really, really helped is how to maintain the ethical standards as close to what we would do in a physical setting in a traditional way, would be informed consent. So we developed an informed consent where we first build a rapport, don't start the testing on day one, build a rapport, then give an informed consent, get them to understand clearly that you need to do the test when you're well rested, able, ready, check all the mechanisms, also take from them that they're not going to record it, they're not going to take screenshots of it, and that there is nobody else in the room if it's a self-administered test. So there have been difficulties and certain limitations which are also explained to them, that we can't do the best what we can do in a physical setup, but nevertheless we are doing this, which initially also provides a guideline for provisional diagnosis, so that at least the treatment can begin. Finally, the confidentiality of the client, which is very well kept in mind, and they're told and they are taken into confidence that that will be taken care of. In the report writing also, we do put a disclaimer. We write all the circumstances, how it has been collected, etc., so that we are very mindful, and in consultation with the psychiatrist, then it becomes a good teamwork to look at informed decision making.
Thank you, Dr. Sharmila. I think that was an extremely informative.
I also,
yes.
I just want to add something, because we also did testing during this time, and yes, what we have is we have psychoeducational programs for clients. So and usually they're always in a group, and group settings are useful. But during this time, we took a lot of help from education technology department. Actually, one old teacher of education technology of SNDT University helped us to set up quite a few things. And you cannot download with that technology. You can use it so effectively. So I must say that collective and collaborative work in this field has really helped during this time. So thank you, Sharmila.
Thank you, Sharmila. I think the key learning points were that you all managed to adapt very quickly online. And there were some guidelines which unfortunately are not there in this setup. It's like pandemic. I think hopefully this will be the first and last pandemic we'll all be seeing in our lives. So having guidelines for something like that, the last pandemic was 250 years ago. So I don't think those guidelines exist. So something like this.
We didn't exist.
Yes, so it must have been very difficult. I think, as you said, to even be ethically correct in what you all were doing. I just wanted to ask, what did you all do for children? I'm sure that must have been the most challenging of all.
Yes. So for children, we would take parents into confidence. First, have them as a facilitator in the same room. So also very important is that with parents, they either try to coax a response. They try to, say, beta ye bolo, aisa karo, ye bolo, dekho kya bol rahe. So then also, along with the consent form, when it is about child testing, the parents are also specifically made to understand that your presence is to elicit covertly to elicit cooperation. It is not to overtly get them to engage or direct their attention or create any distractibility. With children specifically, two things which we have tried and effectively tried is for behavior assessment or developmental screening just at a screening level, because we can't do more than that. But the Vineland adaptive behavior scale has been effective, because that would at least give us little guidelines with respect to a developmental delay or an intellectual disability, and then make further reference to a psychiatrist or a neuropediatrician. So that has helped. There have been cases with emotional difficulties, electronic addictions, etc. So in that case, a few projective tests like CAT, TAT with screen sharing has been done. Few drawings, like I had in the beginning, April, as soon as the first lockdown, I had a call from my patient saying that my daughter is excessively crying. So I said, is it possible? Then, we discussed about she could do a KFD on her own, and, we discussed that. And believe me, that was an eye-opener, because she did that. And it turned out that, she was actually being bullied by somebody online. And she was 10, and I don't know, she had a fake Facebook ID, and somebody was bullying her. So thankfully, that was possible. So it is extremely challenging, but there are few success stories, and there have been, so I think it's all a mixed bag. We all have gone through this.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Sharmila. I want to come back to Dr. Bharti. I heard that Dr. Bharti, your team also does a lot of group therapy work. So I'm sure even the participants will be very curious to know, how did you all do this group therapy online? I'm sure it must have been challenging, but exciting as well.
Yeah, so it was one thing I forgot to say, that we could see the background of their home and one could get a reference of where they come from or how they live. So that was nice. Sometimes they showed also their dog or their babies or their people to us on in a sense it was a good sharing part.
Little more history taking also came from that point of view.
Yes.
We never see homes of our clients otherwise.
So this was absolutely, and sometimes they showed us the garden because some plants they have done in the COVID time. So it was very refreshing in many ways. The groups were very challenging because our groups last for more than 2 hours, 3 hours. And then to sit across on the computer and then talk with was tough. But they found their methods of, sending smiley, hugging each other, like online kind of improvisation happened. But I feel the groups were the most difficult things to manage because we have therapy groups which go for long hours and it would tire us. Like even the clients would get tired, counselors would get tired. And in the educational space, like psychoeducational activities, it was very interesting because we had national, international clients who could join for the first time on our self-awareness programs, which they have been aspiring, but they would not come. So they managed it because of online thing. And as I said, we took a lot of help from this education technology side, like how to create classrooms, how do you, pass the material on, even for testing, how do I use certain methods? So it was like enriching, I must say, as far as therapy sessions are concerned. But yes, it was tiring if it was long hours on computer like that.
I'm sure it must have been, but I think the challenges are that you managed to do group therapy rather than when the rest of the world was a shutdown on so many things. I think mental health was really rose up to the challenge. And of course, there were a lot of mental health issues that did come up.
Yes, and there are a lot of people who stay alone. Like there are girls and boys who have moved from, say, B city to A city. So then they are alone in the city. And this group connection was very, very important, that each one is going through something similar. So this group therapy really was helpful during this pandemic time. And
definitely. Dr. Dushyant, I would like to ask you that what were the real disadvantages that you all one faced in as a psychiatrist? We have talked of both advantages and disadvantages. And secondly, any guidelines for tele psychiatry, because tele mental health, it is all such a developing field, and with now the finance minister coming up with setting up mental health centers, and I'm sure she must have, because of hearing of the way we have all worked virtually. So any guidelines that you came across or anything?
Yeah. When the telemedicine rules were made available, the NIMHANS took this leadership and educated the psychiatrists about how telepsychiatry can be practiced. And when I actually used all that and saw patients online, I realized that the disadvantages are not much, not many, and there are certain limitations, yes, and these can be worked out. And the most important thing is we are learning, and we have learned as to how to best use this platform that has been offered. And like you said, Parul, that I don't have to touch you, right? And that is precisely what some patients want. I remember this girl who contacted me for her mother, and when I told her that I'm practicing online only, the first thing she said, she almost exclaimed, she said, I do not believe in online counseling or online consultation. So for people like this, definitely they have to be guided somewhere else, referred somewhere else. And if you choose it properly and take a proper history and refer them if they have any other concern which would not be a proper case for tele medicine, then definitely that's it's a good tool. But yes, you have to be very careful, and there are certain restrictions, like certain medicines cannot be prescribed depending on just based on a tele consultation. So naturally this cannot be seen, like ADHD medication cannot be given based only on a teleconsultation. Certain medicines like benzodiazepines cannot be given after the first consultation. So this is there. And unless you are totally sure that you can give these medicines, um, the it should not be prescribed. The problem which I faced, I won't say disadvantage, was that the pharmacist, the chemists, were not very aware of what this is. They didn't know about telepsychiatry. They were not very aware of e-prescriptions. So I had to talk with the leaders in that field and somehow get to them. And then the group of psychiatrists sort of had, I would say, friends who coordinated with the chemist friends. And then we could guide the patients to the nearest chemist, because it was a big problem, because they were scared. They didn't know how to manage with e-prescriptions, because they have this requirement that they have to put a stamp on the physical prescription, the hard copy. And with the e-prescription, it became very difficult, because these are medicines which are restricted.
Yeah.
Yeah, schedule H prescriptions. So we had to work around that somehow. So that was a limitation, but I wouldn't say a disadvantage, because we are learning. And like Dr. Zawate said, if we are not careful in taking history, if somebody else is present in the room listening to all that, or guiding or pressurizing the client to say something which he doesn't want to say, that would be a big problem. So I would ask them to move the camera around if that was um, possible, to know as to see as to who is there in the room, and whether we can trust the client feels safe to talk to us. Otherwise, it's trying insisting that they must see us. uh, and this point has already come up, that some of them insist that they want to continue with online therapy or online consultation, and which might not be a good thing. The guidelines which are published for telemedicine insist that the client has to be seen physically in 6 months. So when I insisted, people who had otherwise always given excuses, they started coming. And when it is absolutely necessary, I do home visits. So somehow that 6 months limitation is very important, and that has to be followed, and we are trying to do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Dushyant. I agree with you. The challenges for medication management were immense and very unstructured. As you said, it was very difficult for them to get medication. But on the other hand, I remember having clients who were in US and Dubai and using my prescription by saying, हम लोग तो ये बहुत सालों से ले रहे हैं, and now you have to give. So they managed to get them in the end. So I think that's also important. And as you also mentioned that the room and where they were, the privacy was always an issue. I think it was an issue even for clinicians and client. I have one funny incident where पीछे ना सीटी बज रही थी. So then the client mid therapy is asking me, doctor क्या बन रहा है पीछे? And I just didn't know. And she's narrating a sad incident. So I said, dal ban rahi hai. What could I say? I really couldn't. And one client was sitting and I background, I only saw high-rise building. I said, तुम कहाँ बैठी हो? She's like, टाकी के ऊपर. I said, why? She said, नहीं, नीचे कोई privacy नहीं है. I said, अच्छा ठीक है. Be careful. So I guess people found their adaptability, but it was, जैसे tragedy में comedy हो गया थोड़ा. So Dr. Sharmila, I come back to you. I'm sure you must have faced a lot of challenges. And what were the observations that you faced between physical and online? What do you think was the difference? I mean, just rather than advantages and disadvantages, what differences did you face as a clinician, and maybe also as a client? What did they tell you?
Yeah. So as you said that, there are a lot of these extraneous things which despite you would like to control. So like, sometimes a pet coming in, or a sibling coming in, or somebody just knocking at the door saying your food is ready, such random things despite having been told. But in terms of the actual differences which we've seen now, it's almost 2 long years that we've been doing this. So as a clinician, I would say that, the non-verbal cues which we miss, that because we are just able to see the face, neck, and maybe just part of the torso, I mean, that gets a little difficult. We're not able to see them in totality. despite telling them, and as we discussed about the informed consent, of course, we cannot fully regulate everything. So that is one thing. Also, in terms of in person, we would see the attention span, their attitude towards testing, the rapport building which happens, what are the speed, accuracy of doing things. Now, these are certain things which are the intangibles sometimes which we tend to miss. And as a clinician, the satisfaction that you get, in terms of getting things done, the concreteness of it, right? That is something which, and with children on the other side, if you look at the clientele perception and feedback, is that children and the elderly, they would say that, okay, हमने कर दिया, but अगर in person करते तो अच्छा होता. So that is definitely there. I mean, because also from our point of view as a clinician, it is about, what kind of test material, the physical test material, of course, cannot be given. So how we have adapted to screen share it, use scanned images and do it. And also keeping in line with the testing protocols, our reliance has been more on clinical judgment rather than just on the test scores. So we look at it more comprehensively that way. And there are not enough researchers which, there is any evidence base to say that how online testing has been equivalent in terms of, physical testing. So it's just too early in the day to do all that. But I think we are managing to do, and it's benefiting. So I think that's really worthwhile.
I think very rightly said, it is benefiting. And I think that's why we are here as well, and to share our experiences. I would like to end this by asking each one of you only one line answers. जैसे बोलते ना करण जौहर के शो में one line answer चाहिए मेरे को. So it's not fastest finger first, Dr. Dushyant. It is just one question to each one of you. Dr. Bharti, online, offline?
Both.
Oh, very good. Yes, hybrid model. Dr. Dushyant?
Hybrid model. Yes, definitely hybrid.
And Sharmila?
Same. I think we all have the same answers. It's a mixed model. Of course, it's been a great experience.
Definitely.
At the same time, we are doing a small research with our people as to, because online, we need to now take it. It's going to happen. It's a changed scenario. It's going to be permanent in many, many places. So we are trying to come up with a small booklet for them. If they go online, that these are the things they will have to do. They will have to follow these, etc. So we are creating that with our population of clients already, because it is inevitable. We cannot revert back to our old methods of all old methods.
So please publish it online on your website so we can all benefit from it when we go online and offline. And thank you to all three of you. I think life has really changed for the better. So if we had this model online, I think in the next BPA, Dr. Mrinalini, Dr. Sushma and your team, would it be offline?
Blended, again, hybrid.
I would like to meet all of you after such a long time.
Yes, we need to touch. I don't think that no touching works all the time. We need to touch our patients and each other as well. So we need a hug. Virtual hugs are not possible.
Parul, I would like to add that, I'm all just being very optimistic that, in future, maybe the metaverse will make a 3D virtual reality a possibility.
Absolutely.
Let's see how it goes.
Absolutely. Let's see how it goes. Thank you, all of you. I hand over now the mic, I would like to say, but I would like to hand over to Dr. Mrinalini and Amitabh. Thank you for inviting all of us.
Thank you.
Amitabh will take it forward. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Very interesting. This discussion was really interesting because I think as a practitioner, I face similar things, and now probably you can hear my children screaming. My God, it's embarrassing. And this is what we faced, and Dr. Parul Tang had really done a good job of moderation. And I think amazing questions. Anxiety disorders were more, OCD patients were really more, is what we could see. Dr. Dushyant gave amazing insights with regard to telemedicine, advantages, limitations, disadvantages. If he said not so many, and I think that's amazing, Dr. Dushyant. And the pharmacist had to be made aware of e-prescription is something that I really got to know today, and that's like amazing insight into how you all have been functioning and so difficult it must have been. Thanks to Dr. Sharmila as well. I think it's amazing the way you have been working with testing online. Amazing. This is something which, and now I know that how I could help my patients, because I'm also working, and it'll be good to send them to you, because there's so many people who want online, and that's safer. I still, sometimes some people are not still feeling very safe with regard to the pandemic. But amazing innovations. These are the innovations that we have seen, and wow, I can just say wow. Dr. Bharti, I think what you're telling me is that how this fear of the stigma, that's what online helped. You're saying that the discrete nature of online helped the patients. Some patients, like introverted patients, also felt good with regard to the online work. Though, of course, the physical thing is being missed, and it would help tremendously. The online also helped, because these patients who have this fear, this stigma, they could approach us far more easily. And also, people nationally, internationally could join. That's what you're saying, that these group therapy patients who moved far away due to the pandemic were still around. They could still be there in this online work. So I think very good question, Dr. Parul. The last one, online, offline, you choose, and each of you chose hybrid, and I would choose hybrid too. And amazing. So I would like to thank all the panelists. Amazing insights, lovely discussions, and it's really very, very fruitful. This discussion was very fruitful. I would also like to thank Dr. Mrinalini Purandare, my senior in SNDT, former head and professor of Department of Psychology at SNDT University, for chairing this session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, all of you. It has been good.
Thank you very much. What
hand
we
over
have
to Geeta.
witnessed, yes, what we have witnessed here is the way mental health professionals can adjust to the things so beautifully that in spite of it being so late, we are now just 15 minutes ahead the schedule. 1:30 we were to finish the session, and it's just 1:45. So thank you very much for managing, and sorry from the organizers desk that you had to wait for some time. Apologies for that. So we will end this session and today's proceedings for now, but let me give certain information for tomorrow. All life members will be joining tomorrow at 9 o'clock, because we have AGM from 9 to 10. After the AGM, we will be having a keynote address by Dr. Lalit, and followed by that, we will be having paper presentations. All the information is already given in the conference group. If you have any queries, you can still ask there. Please see to it that all your PPTs are being given to the posted email IDs. And see you all tomorrow. We will be sharing a separate link, and the link also will be given